Ben's big meanie.
What are you gonna do about it, Louisville?
Were you gonna break out of your
Nothing.
chains?
Well, gee, Ben, what are we doing
Ben's in
tonight?
charge of the show.
That's tomorrow night. That's tomorrow night,
do
Jackson.
nothing.
We're right now. We're bullying Austin for losing to a tree.
Oh my god!
Yeah. I don't know who let Austin speak.
He
To be honest with you, did someone take the ball out of his mouth?
I will remove you all from this show. I swear. I swear. What is going on, everyone? Welcome into the After Dark show right here on the main channel, the Voice of College Football. I'm just Ben of Explorer, Ben and Sam here on YouTube. And before we get into things, once as always, everyone on the panel, please one by one, tell people where they can stalk you online if they choose to.
Well, they can stalk me on Alabama at the Voice of College Football, where I've got an exciting lineup tomorrow afternoon. Oh shoot, that happened. Well, anyway, that's a blooper. Anyway, they can find me on Alabama at the Voice of College Football, where I have the latest edition of tomorrow afternoon, where I've got Oklahoma Week with Johnny Burtz, and we will have John E. Hoover from Sports Illustrated joining us. We will have Parker Thune from OU Insider joining us, Eric Cooper from Unfair Sports, and Preston Gant from the PG Show joining us for the preview of the Alabama-Oklahoma matchup. And let me tell you something, it's a star-studded lineup. And also, I won't reveal who is on my lineup for Auburn Week until the Alabama call-in show Thursday night. So stay tuned for that. And you could also check me out on Jackson Johnson 979 on YouTube, where I'm 113 subs away from that magic number 500. You can check me out on Jackson VOCFB on X and on Instagram. You can find me on Jackson Johnson 543908, where I give my updates on who's coming on the Jacksonian, who's coming on Alabama with the Voice of College Football, and much, much more about my adventures. Whose turn is it now?
Okay. No, I'm here. Yeah, I'm Sean. You can find me on Twitter, Jackson. Drop the link, and you can just find me right here at the Voice of College Football. Yes. Let's all rejoice in a spazless after dark. Yeah, and yeah, so big stuff coming in. My brother's flying in a couple hours here, and so yeah, I got a couple good family stuff as we roll into Thanksgiving the next couple weeks. So yeah, I'm looking forward to this and looking forward to watching a thrilling conclusion to our regular season here.
That little
So,
super
you
chat
can find me-
dedicated to spaz.
Oh boy. You want to read it first, Ben?
No, I'll touch that immediately following this. Go ahead, Austin. Let's keep the flow going.
Okay. So you can find me on Sports Talk with Austin 2002, where I have my Wednesday and Saturday shows with the man above me, Jackson. And it's a great time. Come check it out. You know, we're much more mature over there than we are here. This is like teenager show. We're more adults over there on our channels. And you can find me on Twitter, where I talk all things about Louisville, talk about the Cowboys, I talk about the Nuggets. And yeah, Thanksgiving's around the corner. So let's get to it. Ben, where can they find you? You crazy man.
Well, just the same thing. You can find me here on YouTube, Exploring Ben and Sam, or of course on the Oregon channel for the weekly show and the post games, and then every Sunday right here as available. Even if I was in Nevada. Shout out Wolfpack, who mercifully had a bye week this last weekend, so they didn't have to suffer anymore this season. But shout out Wolfpack.
There we go.
And Jackson Johnson breaking the seal, much like I will be soon, with alcohol. But yeah, God damn it, Spaz.
Yep.
I don't know where he is. Who knows? Who cares?
I think I've beaten Ben on the over-under on how many times I've said that, where it's just like, I that's a shocker, honestly.
Yeah. And
He might
Spaz wants to do a health check on us.
Yeah, he might pop on soon. Who knows? He hasn't said anything, so whatever. He gets
He's
special
probably
fucking
off
treatment around here.
robbing banks.
All right, that's one F. I get 2 F-bombs every Sunday. That was one. I wasted it on Spaz. Sad. Sad.
Yes.
You
Let's
gotta
look
make the
at
next
this.
one count.
Yeah, exactly. And yes, please, as the chat has already been saying, as our weekly segment continues, can we have a moment of silence for Merrimack, who was embarrassed by Sacred Heart University, losing 31-20 this last weekend.
Damn shame.
It was.
At least Merrimack can claim they're the second best independent in the football championships on subdivision this year.
I don't know what happened. The season started off so strong, and then it just went downhill from. Well, it didn't really start off that strong, but
No, I
it didn't really start off that strong.
had a strong middle of the season.
Yeah, there you go. I mean, good high scores, and then it's all of a sudden it's like back-to-back losses.
6-0.
Wow.
Yeah. Finished concluding the season against 2-9 Fordham next week.
Merrimack
what was it?
I was going to say, does Merrimack have a chance to make a bowl still? Is that alive?
They never really did, since they're not in the bowl subdivision.
Yeah, I was like, did they actually have a chance at anything like that? I don't think
their playoff chances are long gone. So it'll be them against the Fordham Rams, the initial institution of our future president. That's where Mr. Trump began his college career before moving on to Pennsylvania. So,
well, apologies to incoming once again President Trump. Go Merrimack.
Yes,
Need Merrimack to finish strong.
Scholastic Bowl.
It's Scholastic Bowl, yeah. Probably. You know what? Screw it. Let's jump into upsets of the weekend. Why not there? Because there was some maybe a little closer than comfortable games, and obviously some outright upsets. Where do we want to start? I don't know if this is an upset, but I just have to shout out little brother Beavers. Getting shut out by Air Force 28-0. Way to go, Beavers. Way to go.
You know who did better than that against Air Force? Merrimack. Merrimack had a competitive game. Merrimack lost 21-7 against them.
21-6. I'm looking at it right now. 21-6. Okay. Still, yeah. True. And they both were at Air Force. So, yeah. Shout out Merrimack.
Absolutely. Better than the Beavs.
I got one to start us off. What is going on with LSU? Did Alabama really break them?
I can't hear you. LS who? I think the better question is, did Texas A&M break them?
I don't know if something's broken.
I don't think it's anything. I think that you're just seeing that. I mean, you've seen it, Jackson. The amount of just Twitter stuff about LSU, like LSU has some issues when Brian Kelly's yelling at players on the sideline, which a coach is going to do once in a while, but you see him, he does it. You know he's yelling at him. When a player goes up and also yells at Brian Kelly up front on the sideline, you're like, there's some problems on that team. There are some serious problems with that team.
Brian Kelly's never been one to hide his emotions.
No.
I remember I used to call him the Great Tomato because of how red he would get at Notre Dame. So it's just, yeah, I don't know what's wrong with them. Their offense just isn't doing what it needs to do. Putting up a lot of yards, but also
Well, and I was telling
not finishing drives. And, yeah.
I was telling Austin, I know I've told a few people like throughout the year, this year and last year.
Ooh, sorry. Yeah, ignore me. Keep going. I hit
Yeah,
something.
anyway, so I talked about how LSU, had they not had Jaden Daniels last year, they were like an 8-7 win team because their
Well,
defense.
they only won 9 games with him last year. They still went 9-3
Yeah, but
with like the most explosive offense.
last year in Missouri, Jaden Daniels saved the day for him. And
Yeah,
you know, Jason O makes a humongous point, make a great point. You know, it feels like an odd fit. And I feel like there's Jimbo Fisher-esque vibes with Brian Kelly at LSU. You know, there was all this hype. Oh, we're gonna get the title. Oh, Brian Kelly can win a title now that he's at LSU. I told people for a few years, do not be so sure of that. I mean, could he get big regular season wins for LSU? Yes. Can he win a conference title? No. Could he win a playoff game? No. I sound like a harsh critic, and that's a fault I've got. But you know, it's the fact is, if you want a good regular season coach, Brian Kelly's your guy. If you want to win big in the postseason, like say a BCS bowl, a New Year's Six bowl, playoff games, Brian Kelly is not your guy. Unfortunately, he could not get Cincinnati a win in the Orange Bowl when they play against Virginia Tech in his second year. He couldn't get a single BCS bowl win or a national title at Notre Dame for the Fighting Irish. And with LSU, I mean, what they got? Yeah, they got big bowl wins against Purdue. Yeah, you beat them 63-7. You won a tight one against Wisconsin without Daniels, but that was it. You don't have a New Year's Six bowl win. You don't have a playoff win, nothing, and you're not going to get that at LSU. If you're hoping for that, Brian Kelly's not your guy, and it's just not going to be a good. I mean, this season has just been a disaster. I mean, they got lucky against South Carolina, and you know, you asked that question: did Bama break them, Austin? I asked, did Texas A&M break them?
Well,
Jackson, I think you're grotesquely overlooking though his multiple national championships at Grand Valley State University.
Well, he did win a lot at Grand Valley State. He did win some matches.
Yes, he did. Yes, he did. Go Lakers here.
And that's fair. That's fair. I think Jim has it right here, and I think this goes back to the when you say preseason rankings of why they're important and not important. Remember, LSU lost to USC in the opener, and everyone was like, USC, oh my god! And look, they've been a train wreck basically the whole season. Well, LSU is now becoming that kind of train wreck also. So was that really a good win or loss, or was both of that just middle of the pack type of teams going at it? But everyone had high expectations.
I think everybody had high expectations of USC and LSU this season. I mean, I had higher expectations for USC, to tell you the truth, and I kind of fell for it like a moron. But there's always that team that makes you feel like a moron.
Well, I'll just say, like, I don't know how often the team has lost a number 2 overall pick, Heisman Trophy winning quarterback, and 2 first-round receivers and gotten better the next year. I think the expectation was that just with competent coaching, the defense could rise to being the level of competent, of average.
Mm-hmm.
But the offensive drop off, I think, has been more significant than people realized. I mean, they can't they can't just win shootouts
Well,
in the game.
I'll say this.
yeah, Austin.
I'll say this. I think, we're putting a lot of this on Brian Kelly, and understandable. He deserves a lot of this blame. But it also falls on the offensive coordinator, too, not being able to create a run game. Because Nussmeier, let's keep in mind, he's throwing the ball 49, 50 times a game. You're not going to win very many games with a quarterback doing that.
Well, and I think like what both of you were saying too is the defense I think has gotten better in general this year, but the offense is taking a step back. But you needed to have that flux of the defense getting better because you lost Jane Daniels. Last year it was a train wreck if it wasn't for Jane Daniels. Last year, put Nussmeier in for Daniels instead the whole season, LSU would have lost like what, 5 games?
Maybe more. Their defense was. I mean, they also had like elite playmakers, and they don't have elite playmakers anymore.
That's what I mean, though. I mean, if you hadn't had Jane Daniels and you put Nussmeier in last year, they would have lost at least 5+ games. And this year, the defense has gotten a little better, but the offense is taking a step back. But the defense hasn't improved enough. But that's also like Austin said. You know what? At the end of the day, it's on the head coach. It's on the head coach.
And I mean, there's a really good chance Nussmeier won't even be back next year. And there's also a decent chance they could lose out. They have the number 1 overall player in the country coming in as a quarterback next year, but he might not come in now at this point. And right now, they've got to fight for the future. I mean, like the rest of the season is kind of a wash for them. They're not going to accomplish what they wanted to, but keeping this class together is going to be super important for Brian Kelly and his future at LSU. Because if he can't do that, if this class falls apart, LSU is just going to be a pretty average football team for the next couple years.
I want to piggyback off your point, Ben, about the LSU offense. And I know we all love to watch college football, so you all get this. LSU's offense is basically Kyron Lacey, and just throw it to him, and he'll make something happen. And a lot of times, that's what it's been. And then when defenses, as we've gone on throughout the year, they're kind of like, okay, we see what this is. You're going to try to get it to Kyron Lacey, and then and he's going to make a big play, and then everyone else is going to get involved. But if we take him out from the get-go, LSU's offense is dead in the water to start with. And I think, honestly, Kyron Lacey saved him in that Ole Miss game, if I'm being completely honest. If he doesn't make that huge catch in overtime, they probably don't win that game.
Yeah, I mean, and LSU right now is 6-4. 8th in their SEC title hopes, unless complete somehow chaos happens, their SEC title hopes are shot this year.
Well, their
playoffs are shot. Their playoffs are shot, 100%. Now this week they get to host off of a bye week Vanderbilt. Hello LSU, welcome in
Vanderbilt. If Vanderbilt was to beat LSU. Oh man, it's gonna get. You think this week was ugly for Brian Kelly? It's gonna get uglier for him.
You lose to Vanderbilt. I mean, and as good as Vanderbilt has looked, obviously this year, you lose to Vanderbilt though. That's 4 losses in a row. You're done, and the season you just pack it in at that point.
And another underrated point about all this is LSU's offensive line has regressed too this year. Look how many times. Like Garrett Nussmeier's getting sacked now. I think Alabama had at least 4 that I saw. And, these teams are getting to Nussmeier, and it's just really disrupting the offense. Their offensive line is taking a big step down. And that's been Brian Kelly's calling card. Everyone's always said he's going to build an O-line, build a run game. We're not seeing it, Brian Kelly.
Austin kind of dropped out there. He was like mid-sentence and just kind of went, yeah. Which again, LSU is a hard team to figure out. You lose to USC, but then you beat Ole Miss. Ole Miss now has gotten some players back, but you beat Ole Miss, who just embarrassed Georgia. This is why the SEC this year seems like just there's like 3 or 4 teams in the top area, a huge mid area, and then your couple bottom dwellers. There is no like real, this is the best team or 2 top teams.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's going to be a little bit of a CF trying to figure out who's going to be in this title game for them. If we
which we're gonna get into those title games because the SEC is probably the craziest scenario situation.
Yeah, right.
Big 12.
Well, right now it seems pretty streamlined for the winner of the Texas A&M game to get in.
That's what I mean.
Something can happen, and and then the rest of it, you're going to probably have several teams with 2 losses.
Yeah, that's what I mean. The SEC is not done yet; it's not solidified, and most conferences are. There's only one conference I can speak of for sure, 100%. It's solidified, and we're going to talk about that in a little bit. Upset wise, Austin, are you back?
Yeah, I'm right here, Ben.
All right.
You hear me?
All right. Let's just rip the Band-Aid off, Austin. What happened against those Stanford Cardinals? Those mighty trees over there.
I'll tell you what happened. The Jeff Brom curse happened. You don't hear me get mad very often, but I'm about ready to get a little mad. Jackson, I know you said there was good things coming our way. And there is, but if this is what we're going to get every time, this is going to get really annoying really fast.
I know, but remember, do not throw the baby. Do not throw the baby out with the bathwater.
I'm not going to do that, but he did this at Purdue as well. And come on, man. Can we not build off a great win? Come on.
I will, in defense, as we were talking before we went live, I said, welcome to the Stanford curse, basically the tree curse, because that's what happens at Oregon a lot, where you'd play this team like Stanford, who could be just a meh or bad team. You get there and you lose. It's just one of those things that happens. And as these new conference realignments happen, which is something we're going to talk about in the offseason as we look forward later on, look back at the season, how this realignment shapes out in the sense of whose team is your curse. Stanford could be Louisville's curse, kind of like it was to Oregon. It's one of those things that just kind of naturally happens.
Mm-hmm. Well, and we had 111 penalty yards too, and that one at the end of the game. I know people say you shouldn't be holding on to them after you go out of bounds, but that was ticky-tack. Really? Really? You're going to call that of all things? Where was that at in the Pitt Clemson game, for Christ's sakes?
Oh, I don't know how many of us were watching that game, so I don't know if we have a frame of reference here for this, but
I watched the highlights. I didn't get to watch the game. I was watching some other stuff, but I did watch the highlights, so I know what he's talking about. And can we all agree one thing, and just not to go off topic of the Louisville-Stanford game, because we want to talk a little bit more about it, but the officiating this year, for the most part, has been pretty crap.
Yeah, we're
very crap. I mean,
particularly in Clemson, Pittsburgh. The officiating was just gone.
Don't. I don't even want to talk about that game because that game was so annoying. I watched the whole thing somehow. And
Oregon, Wisconsin's officiating was pretty bad too. That phantom chop block.
Well, we can talk about officiating. We'll make a whole. I think after the season, we'll talk about. We need to come up with the worst 10 play calls during the season or something. I will give that crew some credit. They did call at least one play consistent against Oregon for the D-line shifting, which caused 2 delay games on the defense. Which even the reviewer was like, "That's a stupid call. Why do they keep calling that? All the D-line shift." They called it twice against Oregon.
Yeah, and
Or 2 first downs for Wisconsin. So, it is what it is. But yeah, Louisville. Damn it. Austin. Keep on track. Keep on track.
I'm sorry. I got out of hand. But yeah, I'll say this. I know we're in a world now where you are what you said your record says you are. And our record says we're 6-4. And people look at that Stanford loss, it's really bad. No arguments. We shouldn't have lost Stanford. We shouldn't even put ourselves in that situation. We were up 35-21 with about 6 minutes to go. We're a better team than that. No excuses. But the thing is, it's one loss. And you have to look at it from the perspective of, okay, if Stanford got lucky on that one day, next time around, you never know what happened. Like the old saying goes, if you play them out of 10, how many times would you beat them? That's how I'm kind of started to look at it. Would Stanford win that way again? Probably not, because we would learn from that. It's a bad loss, but we got to move on.
Well, how about the falling back to earth after just pummeling Clemson on the road in Death Valley? Go there and absolutely steal the lunch money. And then you come home and lose to one of the worst Power 4 teams in the country.
It happened last year against Notre Dame, if you remember, when we beat Notre Dame, and then we go to Pitt, and then we blow a flat tire. Jeff Brahms did his Purdue. He's been consistent with that. The year after he beat you all, Sean, he lost to a really bad team in the Big Ten, I think it was, the week after. So he's consistent with it at least. Dadgummit.
Just remember one thing. The Jeff Brom era is a hell of a lot better than the Scott Satterfield era.
Well, yeah, Scott Satterfield, he didn't even last an OC in Nebraska.
Satterfield
on Holgerson, and 4 days later, Holgerson.
No, that's Marcus Satterwhite. This is Scott Satterfield.
Oh, sorry.
He's the head coach at Cincinnati.
That's right. Sorry. The names are so similar. Sometimes I hear them. I'm like,
yeah.
The names are so freaking similar.
Yeah.
As to Austin, it's not. Guess what? Things happen. We all have those. As sitting as an Oregon fan, we've lost to Stanford multiple times. Well, we should not have lost to them, and we did. It happens at home or on the road. It happens,
Yeah, it asked about Colorado last year. Colorado up by 28 last year.
I look at it this way, put a bow on it. Alabama lost to Vanderbilt this year, one of the historically worst programs of all time. They lost to them. Like you said, it happens, Ben.
Yeah, I mean, Stanford's a full rebuild. They've been a rebuild for a couple of years with their new coach from Sacramento State. I can't remember his name for some reason.
Troy Taylor.
Yeah, there you go. Thank you.
From Sacramento State. Yep.
Yeah. But so they're a rebuild. They've been hit and miss for sure under him. But thank you, Dark Cookie. That tree. That doesn't
really hard.
You upset your face, Ben.
Stanford is just kind of the pain in the side, kind of like you think of Auburn to Alabama or Michigan, Ohio State. Really, that's kind of what Stanford becomes to a lot of teams, and they shouldn't be, but they just are. It's just the way it is with Stanford. I don't know what it is.
It'd be more like Purdue against Ohio State. Purdue has come up and
okay. That's okay. I'll take that. I'll take that as a fair reference. I'll take that as one.
Yeah. Man. It was. Yeah. How about that Clemson Pitt officiating though? In that game, taking 5 minutes. And the replay doesn't even call down for obvious hands to the face.
And then they overturn it.
Then they just look up at the jumbotron and then they
like Sean McDonough and Greg McElroy hated they were just like pissed that the refs were just sitting on their ass doing nothing. Like what they're having what was it that Joe Pesci called it on Casino? Smoking El Diablos and eating fucking souffle.
It was an obvious call too, and they didn't call it. And then they just stood around like.
I didn't understand why. Well, I really, for the life of me, I was watching that. I don't know what's going on here. Like, why are another play? Are we reviewing this? Are we not? I haven't heard that there's a review.
That was so irritating.
I haven't heard that. I don't know. Did someone take a timeout?
Yes.
What the hell is going on here?
Yeah, one of them took. I don't remember who it was. Someone took a timeout after that, but then they stood around for 3.5 to 4 more minutes after that, talking about before they threw a flag. It was like the weirdest thing.
So bad.
Yeah, I'm just like, yeah, I've never seen a flag thrown that late ever. I don't know if a flag ever has been thrown that long after a play ever.
They literally closed
they're just sitting around like exchanging brownie recipes or something for all I know. And then just all of a sudden later, 5 minutes after the play, whoop, flag.
Yeah, there's. I mean, that whole game. I mean, not saying that play made any difference in that game, because that whole game was just a mess. Not on the officiating necessarily.
No,
those are just two mid-tier teams fighting.
Yeah,
and there was so many bad plays, so many bad coaching decisions, and errors all around in that game.
How about Pitt running it, putting a 5-man box in there and clearing out the middle of the field for a club just.
It was just so much. I barely got through that game. I was tweeting going, I don't even know why I'm watching this. This is awful. This is just hard to watch.
And I mean, and Pitt down their starting quarterback in the game too. He's still able to put up like a pretty good day in the air. They threw the ball.
So here,
a ton though.
Here's the thing with that. I've always been taught third and fourth down, you can bring the blitz packages in. But on first and second down, you're supposed to play coverage, supposed to play soft, right? Pitt comes in with the blitz, and they bring like the middle linebacker around, and Klubnik literally just is like, okay, you're going to give me this space? Zoom, there he goes. And I'm thinking, you don't blitz on first down.
Well, especially not when you've got 5 men in the box here. Bring like the one guy that you have off the ball. So he gets picked up, and then there's just nobody in that spot. What? And then, of course, you're playing man all the way across. Yeah.
Like, where's the spy at? If you know in the back of your head, like, Klubnik can run. Okay, let me put a spy. I know this extra man won't be able to go help us cover, but at least if Klubnik takes off, guess what? He's contained. And if he breaks out of a tackle, hopefully our tacklers will come get him. But instead, they're like, okay, let's blitz everybody and hope it works. And it backfired.
Yeah, again, the whole game, just each side, the coaching philosophy, what they were trying to do in that game, just half the time literally just made no sense. It was just a bizarre game to watch.
It was interesting. I was watching Ohio State Northwestern mainly while this was going on. They started at the exact same time, and the Clemson Pitt game ended more than an hour later than the Ohio State Northwestern game did. The game took over 4 hours and then didn't go to overtime.
Yeah. They were like the next game's already playing on ESPN2 or whatever. I'm like this. Yeah. Holy shit! Why are we still on this game?
There's like 8 minutes left in the fourth quarter of this game, and they're already on to the next one. Yeah, it was a very weird. It was a very bizarre game. I can imagine how frustrating it would have been. It's something interesting. I just looking up at these stats. Of course, with like a lot of the new clock rules, teams get fewer possessions, fewer plays are run in the game. But I'm just looking through here. Clemson ran 68 plays, which is, I mean, that's pretty fair. That's not that much. Pittsburgh ran 91 plays in this game. It's absolutely unheard of in this day of age of college football. 91 plays.
which thinking about that, taking it back, LSU, Florida. LSU, remember, if you think about it, LSU ran 95 plays to Florida's 43, and Florida won.
Yeah. I say, yeah. LSU had over 40 minutes, over a 2-to-1 time of possession.
Just absolutely. So the clock game doesn't necessarily matter if you control the ball and are just moving up and down the field in chunk plays.
If you're able to. Well, if you're able to like finish your drives, put points on the board. LSU wasn't able to do that the whole game. They got down into the red zone.
Well, that's what I mean, and it could be deceptive because you could have a defensive touchdown and stuff like that. There are those types of things too, but it's still that's a huge disparity when you're talking under half the plays run and you won.
That's massive. That's massive. That's not supposed to be.
So speaking of special teams, Ben, let's rip the Band-Aid off for you. What the hell was that? Really? Your kicker's going to take it? Really?
No, that was the holder. It was the holder who's the punter. But it was the holder. Hey. Wisconsin off a bye week, which, by the way, that's 2 weeks in a row, back-to-back. The teams have a bye week, Maryland and Wisconsin, to prepare for us. Wisconsin defense came to play. They were there to shut us down. They did a fantastic job. That fourth down call that didn't make it was half a yard short about. That was just Dan Lanning saying, you know what does 3 points do? That just means they have to get a touchdown, they win. So why take a field goal? Go for it. Now you say, well, leave it in Gabriel's hand. The offense hadn't been doing a whole lot. So they saw something they liked. They tried it. It almost worked. They just didn't get one slight block. If he had made it, they would have been like, man, smartest guy around. But you didn't make it. So everyone's like, what are you doing? So come on. And same as if he had taken the field goal, people would have been like, look, a touchdown. Then Wisconsin scores a touchdown and wins. They'd been like, you should have gone for it on fourth down. It's one of the narratives you live and die by.
I think, honestly, it's better to take a chance against a team like Wisconsin for this season than it is like a Georgia, an Alabama, or
preach it, Jackson.
Yeah, or basically at Ohio State, Penn State. But I will say though, I feel like Oregon's already clinched a playoff berth. Honestly, I feel like they already did.
Oh yeah, 11 win team out of the Big Ten. Yeah, you're getting on.
So even if they lose to Washington, you still think the committee would let that pass?
I mean, they would get punished, but they would get punished a little bit. But see, I was thinking about this last night. I contend that if Oregon would have won the game, lost last night, they still would have been number one. I think they still would have.
Really?
Because
there's enough shakeup, and also no one looked really good. I mean, Penn State looked good, but everyone beats the shit out of Purdue.
I mean, like, how could you move Ohio State? How could you move Ohio State ahead of Oregon? Like, how could you really justify that? How could you? I mean, in the rankings, it doesn't really matter at this point at all who's one or who's two, because that game. I mean, assuming they take care of both teams take care of business, that game will be for the top seed in the playoff.
Darth Ducky does make a good note here. Even when Oregon was still winning, they dropped us like 5 or 6 spots initially in the first few weeks. So he does make a good point there. We're the only team that won and dropped.
Sean.
No. I mean, they have a win over the number 2 team.
Yeah, what could you do? Fair point. That's a fair point.
Well, I don't. And Austin, to your question about does Oregon get in? Yes, they're in because they're in the Big Ten, and it's something I've been saying all year, all off season, all throughout this past year. You're in the SEC, Big Ten. You're in. the teams that really have to worry are the teams in the ACC and the Big 12. I mean, I was watching a little bit of Alabama Mercer before I started the post-game show for the Alabama Mercer post-game show with Johnny Burt's, and I was hearing the broadcasters talking a little bit.
That's very professional of you to watch the game.
Huh?
What was that?
What did you say, Sean?
I'm sorry. Yeah, you cut out for a second. I didn't hear the last part of.
Well,
at least on my end, you cut out.
I heard when I was watching a little bit of the Alabama Mercer game before I started the post-game show with Johnny Burch yesterday afternoon. I heard the broadcasters just saying out of the blue that nobody should leave out the loser of the SEC title game. It doesn't matter if you win or lose the SEC title game. If you make it, you should be in, which kind of tells me right then there. And of course, there's the TV contracts that the playoff has with ESPN, and ESPN has a huge investment in the SEC. So you know that there's going to be 4 or more teams in the SEC getting in. For me, whoever makes it to the SEC title game is in. I mean, you heard some third-rate broadcaster saying that, well, you know, the losers shouldn't be left out anyhow. But I can guarantee you, they're not going to say that about SMU. They're not going to say squat about SMU. But if it's like Clemson, for example, or if it's Miami, I think Clemson would get in or Miami would get in. Because like a lot of the committee, and let's be real, a lot of people are so obsessed with the 80s. You know, like how there's like people that are obsessed with the 50s. Well, like there's people that are obsessed with the 80s. And what was a huge part of college football in the 80s? Miami football. And there's a lot of people that want to bring back the 80s reboot of Miami football. And Miami has been doing pretty good this season.
But I mean, might they bring back SMU if they're obsessed with the 80s? Yeah. Old Pony Express.
No. And unfortunately for SMU, they can't really hold on to. We had some great days in the 1930s where we were winning national titles. That's unfortunate for them. So what does SMU have to do? They have to keep doing they're doing. They have to keep winning all over the place.
To answer your question, Jackson, I'll say this. The Big 12 and ACC, they're probably one big conference, whether we like it or not. Because let's be honest, the Big 12, they shot themselves in the foot so many times.
I'm wondering, like Clemson's performance yesterday, I don't know if they're really alive for an at-large bid right now. Although I will say, like that South Carolina game, that's a chance for a quality win for them.
Oh, that's true. I mean, if they can beat South Carolina by 3 touchdowns or more, and I'll do you one better,
which would be a lot.
If they run up the score on them, that helps their case a little bit.
The South Carolina is probably a pretty hard team to blow out. Defensively, South Carolina is like excellent. So, and Clemson, I still have questions with them offensively. I think South Carolina is probably going to win that game, but it's going to be a tough one. I'm just saying the SEC. I don't know that the ACC can get more than one team in. I'm almost positive the Big 12 can't. So the ACC SMU right now, you know, looking pretty impressive. I mean, they're kind of outside of the Duke game, they're kind of handling their business this year, handling their schedule. So I mean, like they haven't had that many nail biter games this season.
Yeah, and Clemson,
and they've got a really fairly cushy end to the season here with Virginia and Cal. So I would imagine they might be the one team that can lose. I'm not sure what the tiebreaker scenario is here because Clemson's already done with that.
The tiebreaker for Miami and Clemson is common opponents.
Okay. Yeah, and I know Clemson's conference schedule's been really, really soft. Like they had a really good conference schedule, so that probably bodes well for Miami if they can get by Wake and Syracuse these next couple weeks.
And guess who Miami beat that Clemson didn't? Austin.
Yep. Oh yeah.
Austin, that's your cue.
All right. Where are we at? Where are we at? Sorry about that.
We're talking a little bit about the ACC. We were talking a little bit about what's been going on with them.
Oh, well, have we touched upon? I mean, I get. Well, it literally, I guess it does qualify as an upset.
Yeah.
Come on, Jayhawks. Let's go,
Yeah,
Jayhawks over BYU.
Yeah, Kansas is still alive for bowl eligibility. How about that? And, we saw Colorado making mincemeat out of Utah. Arizona State.
That was a good game until like the late fourth quarter, and Colorado just kind of like blew it open. Colorado was hanging in there, or Utah was hanging in there somehow for a little bit.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, the game you just said, you were just saying. Sorry, I totally got spaced there.
Yeah. Well, and Arizona State's been coming out of nowhere.
ASU, man. Dilly. Coach Dillingham. I know a little something about him. He's a little ahead of schedule, though, in success rate.
But yeah, he's doing a fantastic job over there in Tempe. And they smacked Kansas State, knocked them out of the conference race. And we see that Iowa State is still in the title race.
And I'll tell you this, like he's doing it with a couple of complete cast-off quarterbacks here. Sam Leavitt was like fourth string on a bad Michigan State team last year. Jeff Sims was persona non grata.
Yeah.
I mean, no one wanted him.
That's what I mean, and I'm going to touch on the super chat here in a second. That's what I mean is Kenny Dillingham. People the coach of the year is not coming up yet. Obviously, there's some key favorites. I think you have to put Dillingham as one of the top 5.
I mean, it's not much of a. It's not much of a contest this year. Unfortunately, he doesn't really have no one except one person chance to win it this year. But yeah, you have to give him a lot of his just desserts here. I mean,
sorry,
this is
that, but that's okay. I'll leave it. You keep going. I didn't mean to click that. I meant to turn it.
That's
off
fine.
the comment, but
no. I mean, but it goes to kind of what I was saying about the Big 12 the entire season. Like you're just going to have like really weird results. I mean, I think a lot of people thought the two major players, the favorites to possibly create some noise in the playoffs were Utah and Oklahoma State coming into this year. How is that working out? They are a combined 1-13 in the league, and they were the two favorites. So I mean, like this is a league. I feel like you could run like 100 different simulations on this, and you just get wildly, varying results. So
Oklahoma State is a dumpster fire almost to the degree of FSU, and Utah with their injuries and then coaching decisions and now resignment. Yeah, and yet they're still fighting pretty hard. Shockingly, I don't know how they. That's just Whittingham. I don't know what's Gundy's doing. He's got to be near retirement, I think.
Well, I don't know. Gundy's busy telling everyone about all the times he was drinking and driving on.
And Jack Del Rio. Jack Del Rio. We won't go into that one. You can just
done that 1,000.
Maybe that helped Wisconsin.
There's a little DUI. I've done that thousands of times.
Yeah, maybe
I'm
that helped.
I'm 55.
Okay, maybe that helped Wisconsin against Oregon. He wasn't in the building. Maybe that helped. Who knows? Maybe Wisconsin figured something out. Matt Ridson, yeah, Louisville. Thank you for super chat, by the way. Matt's always a contributor here. We love it. Louisville lose to terrible to Stanford. The two dumb penalties. Yeah, the penalties at the end of the game. That was. Oh
yeah,
man,
Louisville
that
got
was,
screwed
man.
over by the refs big time. My God, that was bad.
The personal foul one was a little ticky tacky. The offside was pretty obvious, easily, but yeah, the personal foul one was pretty ticky tacky. But yeah, with the game-winning field goal, but then Washington State losing to New Mexico. Yeah, Washington State. Come on, Cougs. You couged it. I was literally just saying this last week. We haven't been able to say they couged it, and then they got and coug it.
Gentlemen, I got a question though. Have you noticed the turnaround job that Bronco Mendenhall has done at New Mexico this season? They started 0-4, but now ever since that 0-4 start, they are 4-2, and they are one victory away from getting to bowl eligibility.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, Mendenhall is a good coach. I think we can all agree Mendenhall is a good coach.
That's the thing I love about Mendenhall was like, and I do wish he took a better job than like Virginia or whatever, but he's still pretty cool because he was always coaching at those schools where they don't expect much. I mean, except BYU, which they expected a little more than what they got, but oh well. The fact that he led Virginia to an ACC title game is amazing in of itself in college football. Like you don't see that.
That's what Mendenhall does. He does less. He does more with less. But it's going to take a little bit of time. I mean, New Mexico, by all means, you're not going to get the top guys. You're going to get the guys you can develop that will become top guys, maybe if they transfer or something. But he's got to develop them, and that's what Mendenhall does really well, though.
Yeah, I always thought Virginia was kind of a weird cultural fit for him. I mean, I don't think of I think of Virginia and I think of Bronco Mendenhall. I'm like, these are different universes.
Yeah,
yeah,
New Mexico fits him. That seems to fit him a little bit better, like a BYU, a mountain West type of like setting. That seems to fit.
Yeah, I would love to see him at like a Washington State or Oregon State type.
I could see that too. Yeah,
Oregon State is his alma mater, so it's like I was surprised they didn't try to get him. Honestly, I mean, because the current coach they have is okay, I guess, but I would have preferred them get Bronco Mendenhall because like the situation Oregon State's in, we don't know what their future's looking like. It's not good.
He was for Oregon State probably was kind of like what Sharon Moore was, but not as obvious because it was more of the stopgap to like fill the void quickly, when they had the opportunity. And I mean, I have nothing against the Beavers coach Fry there. But still, he's not great. He's not great.
They should have just gotten Bronco Mendenhall because I mean, Bronco Mendenhall likes this type of a situation where nobody's talking about. I like that name, like Bronco needs to be in the mountains.
Yeah, exactly. That's why I had to blow it up.
I like the idea, because I mean, like him at Oregon State the fact that it's his alma mater, and the fact that Oregon State's kind of left dead in the water by conference realignment in a spot worse off than where TCU was in the 90s when the Southwest Conference disbanded. I mean, that is the type of situation that he likes. He likes that type of a challenge. He's never liked the idea of coaching at an Oregon or a USC or,
he strikes me as someone who wouldn't have the patience to deal with, a massive base of power hungry donors.
Yeah.
And have to do a lot of kissy face media appearances. Like, he wants to go to a place where there's a great deal of autonomy with how he runs his program.
Yeah,
And I think he could do that. I think he could do that at an Oregon State.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
I think he survived it. He stayed as long as he did at BYU because he'd been there long enough where everyone just said,
Mm-hmm.
okay, whatever you want to do, do it. But then once it got kind of stale, like a lot of times when coaching does, you've been somewhere so long, it just kind of gets stale, and you're like, you know what, I need to reboot. And then after Virginia, he took a year off or two or whatever it was, and it's like, I'm gonna
He took 2 years off.
yeah, just reset my mind, refocus, and move on. So you got to do that sometimes. I mean, coaching is not an easy job. We can sit here as the keyboard warriors and talk about this and this about our teams or the coaching decisions, but that thing is grueling. I watched Dan Lanning's presser after that Wisconsin game. His microphone was like this. They were asking questions. He's like this. The whole time he was like still trying to catch his freaking breath. He's like, thank God a bye week's coming up so I can take a break. You know, and he's still going to go recruit. But I mean, at least he was like, thank God I don't have to game plan this week.
Yeah, and I did want to say that about the Oregon-Wisconsin game. I mean, I'm sure you guys have been highlighting that as a trap game all year. Like, that had all the makings. I mean, this is a brutal place to go and play. I mean, I went to the Wisconsin-Ohio State game last year. I mean, Wisconsin has to have the craziest, like, just the craziest fans in college football. I don't know if you.
It did. I want to drop Matt's chat off here to create the screen, but thank you, Matt, for the super chat. Definitely, thank you.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah, Wisconsin was. Trust me, we had all circled it ourselves as Oregon. We were like, hey, it's Ohio State, Michigan, and then I said Purdue is a trap game because after Ohio State on the road,
but they're so bad.
Well, then they turned out to be really bad, and then we also said at Wisconsin before the bye. That was going to be. Those were probably the 4 games where you went, ooh, shit.
Yeah.
And Wisconsin took everything they had in their power and threw it at Oregon, by all means. I mean, they definitely did. They took everything they could muster and threw it at us.
Yeah, if they had any offense going last night, they probably pulled that game out. But yeah.
Honestly, I marked Wisconsin as a loss for Oregon in the preseason.
How dare you? Know what? How dare you? Goodbye from this panel forever, Jackson. How dare you? No.
Well, it was fun. Well, because it was like it felt like a trap game, and it kind of felt like a momentum swing for Luke Fickell and Wisconsin, and it you know, everybody's counting him out. People are counting out Luke Fickell. Some people are doubting whether he's a fit for the Badgers or not. I thought to myself, by God, he's going to try to prove him wrong.
Yeah,
they definitely did. It was enough to get his OC fired today.
I thought that was dumb that the OC getting fired, but I mean, oh well.
Yeah.
I always say this whenever you see a firing like that, you don't know what's going on behind the scenes. There might be more than just the performance of the offense this season going into that. But I'll
sorry. Yeah, too close to Stanford Red. Yeah.
Well,
there are a lot of teams, and speaking of teams with the same color patterns. This next week game, one of the most interesting under the radar games for this coming week, got 5-5 Wisconsin heading to Lincoln to face 5-5 Nebraska.
Oh God! Oh,
so this will be a huge. I mean, Nebraska trying to get. Imagine this: could Nebraska start the season 5-1? And then lose their last 6 2 years in a row.
Oh man,
2 years in a row.
I'm just like, oh my God, that's not good.
Yeah, this is not on the upset radar. I think we have maybe one more upset game to talk about, but let's talk about that. You want bad calls? The USC Nebraska game. when Nebraska threw the Hail Mary at the end, USC defender was grabbing the receiver in the end zone, pulling down. The other guy jumped in front for the interception. How was that not called pass interference?
It's dumb.
We're gonna make a whole show on this. I'm gonna give everyone a task to like pull up the worst officiating calls of the season, maybe with video clips, even if we can do it, because this has been just a disastrous season in officiating for everyone.
Yeah,
no matter what team you are, except for Miami. Maybe that saved them a few wins.
Sometimes they go your way, sometimes they don't.
Yeah. So it's we're gonna see, but that was terrible. Nebraska shot themselves in the foot in that game against USC, but we'll see other ups. It wasn't an upset, but how about Texas and Arkansas? I don't think anyone saw a 10-point game there.
Yeah, I don't know. I wasn't that surprised.
Yeah, because I mean, we're back to having Texas Arkansas as a conference rivalry. I think it's great for all of college football. If more of old rivalries that haven't been played in God knows how long were brought back in all of college football, it would really help the sport. I'm talking to you, Penn State and Pittsburgh.
I'm just wondering how they will go from being both in the Southwestern Conference to now they're both in the Southeastern Conference.
Well,
I mean, did the country have a massive tectonic plate shift here or something? How do you go from being in the West to the East?
Well, Arkansas got sick of Texas trying to call the shots in the Southwest Conference. They left for the SEC. And, we saw lots of conference realignment, of course.
No, Jackson, you're missing the point. Those damn tectonic plates in the middle of the country. The damn tectonic plates.
Absolutely. Just cutting off half the country, moving the West to the East.
Money.
I didn't really think this was gonna be that close of a game, though. I mean, I was watching it on this. It was like the third game I kind of had on, of all things, and I just kept looking over, going, "What's happening? What's going on?"
I'll tell you this: the more I watch of Quinn Ewers, the less impressed I am. I just don't think that guy's a high level processor. I don't think he's got any elite physical ability, and I don't think I just think he's like above average across the board. I don't think there's a whole lot of special there with him. And I mean, people were singing his praises, putting him number one in the Heisman after he beat Michigan, and then they played another couple cupcakes right after that. And his stock was really high. Once he's gotten into SEC play and played like real legit defenses, it hasn't been real pretty. This is not a high level offense. They're okay. They're functional. But
I think maybe Texas is saving their best stuff for Texas A&M.
It's possible, yeah.
And the playoffs, honestly, I think that's what it is.
That is highly possible, and we've been critical as Oregon fans. So looking at Texas, what they're doing, it's not impressive. It's on the road, okay, whatever. Oregon has played pretty vanilla multiple weeks, unless they have to.
I remember where people were giving them crap about their performance against Idaho, their performance against Boise State.
Well, no, Idaho, that was an O-line issue. Boise State, same thing. That was more the O-line issues. Now we have some injuries, but against Michigan and then Maryland, Oregon played pretty vanilla. Like, they really didn't do any crazy plays or anything outside of like a couple of the fakes just to like rile up people and get them excited again, kind of thing. They didn't really do anything outrageous.
You didn't see a lot of that like ball action, a lot of that jet motion that we've seen from them.
Yeah, they're like holding back, and they're holding a lot of players out. And I didn't deep dive into the Texas game, so I don't know who played, who didn't. Did people sit out maybe to get rested, healthy second half? That's what Oregon's doing their roster very nicely, is playing people only when they need to and resting them and keeping them out as much as possible to save them for later in the season. Texas might be doing that same kind of thing and just keeping it generic, but 20-10 on the road against Arkansas, with all due respect to Arkansas, that's pretty tough.
But if you've got like really high level quarterback play, like what people were expecting out of viewers, you shouldn't have to get real fancy. You shouldn't have a really good quarterback should be able to execute a fairly basic offense at a really high level.
Well, I'm curious. I'm looking at the Texas stats. So, I mean, I'm not trying to compare teams because obviously we don't play each other until maybe later in the season. I just wanted to kind of look at this. What was Gabriel's final tally here, stat-wise, in this game, in the game against Wisconsin, just for instance, in that game? Just for instance, I just want to look. Gabriel had 218 yards in
come on,
Texas
Gabriel,
Tech.
break the record of Casey Keenum.
Ewers had 176. Now, their running offense probably was better, but even then, no, not really.
No, their offense was not good yesterday. It was not excellent. It was Texas' defense has improved from last year, though, pretty significantly.
Yeah,
which is
fair.
So I mean, like they'll be in it. They'll have a chance to win it all. But I don't know. They need to do more offensively for me to put them as like a real strong contender right now. But the nice thing for them is they're tied with Texas A&M at the top, each of them with one loss. So
yeah,
and they both have a pretty easy path to a regular season ending showdown, which still needs to be on Black Friday. Big mess there.
Either Black Friday or Thanksgiving Day, it works for me. I mean, but getting to see Georgia Tech on Black Friday is a plus for me.
But that was a tradition in my household. You get like leftover turkeys, load up 3 Hawaiian buns with a little bit of butter on them, and you just sit in front of the TV and you watch Texas A&M.
Right.
True.
That was life to me.
And thinking about that, I had some comment for Justin here, but it's that was a little too R-rated to say on this channel, so I won't say anything. Speaking of Texas A&M, as we look into the conference title races, let's just get it out of the way. We don't have to deep dive too much. AAC is already settled.
Mm-hmm.
The AAC, Army versus Tulane. It's already settled. That's confirmed. Yeah, that's confirmed. That's after Tulane won yesterday and Army won. It is Tulane versus Army for the AAC title. We can get into the Big Ten in a minute because Oregon obviously already clinched.
Both of those teams were probably pulling like crazy hard for San Jose State last night when they went up 14-0 on Boise.
Yeah. Well, that's the Mountain West. But yeah. I get you for the playoff spot, potential. And that we have to look at when we go with maybe after this next week with some more upsets. But at this moment, all we have is that confirmed, the AAC, Army versus Tulane. Big Ten right now is just Oregon versus Indiana or Ohio State. We don't know. They play this next week, but Oregon's already clinched the spot. Obviously, 11-0, unbeaten in the conference. They've already clinched the spot in the title game.
Ohio State can't clinch it this week with the win against Indiana, but I think Indiana can clinch it with the win against Ohio State.
Yeah. Well, yeah. If Indiana beats Ohio State, yes, they will. They could drop a game and still get in. Yes.
Oh yeah.
Or do they have a bye week? I need to look, but yeah, no, that's true. Yeah. Well, no, I think if Ohio State beats Indiana, I think Ohio State still clinches.
No, they don't, because they'll still have one loss. They could still lose another. If they lost to Michigan, they'd finish with 2 losses.
That's true. That's true.
Indiana and Penn State are likely going to win out.
Indiana can clinch if they beat Ohio State, but Ohio State will have to win out. Okay. But Oregon's already clinched theirs because we. Well, I mean,
if Ohio State's at 10-2, it's going to be in the committee's hands, really.
Well, they're getting into the playoffs at 10-2. They would have to lose out to miss out on the playoffs for sure. I'm just talking about the Big Ten championship game.
Yeah, so that's fair. Ohio State has to win out, and then Indiana just has to beat Ohio State this next weekend. But Oregon's already clinched the spot. It's done. They're in the championship game. Year 1. I thought the Big Ten was supposed to be a big struggle. The Pac-12 looks difficult compared to the Big Ten. Okay.
You guys barely beat a 5-5 team last night.
All right, I'm done. Yeah. It was just Oregon can't handle Big Ten football. 16-13. That's a Big Ten score if you ever seen one.
Yeah,
you're like, yeah. That's like
Big Ten scoring.
You know what, Joe? I don't like your attitude right now. I don't like your attitude down here in the chat. All right. Anyways,
Oregon's second toughest game was against a team that's not in the Big Ten.
I was gonna say, Joe hasn't been watching football.
I think he's just having some fun with you, but Ohio State and Boise State are the best wins. I mean, the Boise State win
is aging perfectly.
It's the win that keeps on giving, because when people look back at it, and our buddy Jeffrey had only taught sports himself, talks about how perception changes. Oregon Boise State is a great example. There are people crapping all over it because it was on the Peacock, and they didn't talk about how, Boise State's an impressive win back in week 2. You don't hear people knocking on Oregon for beating Boise State by field goal now. I mean, you don't.
Exactly. Boise State, we feel was going to be a good team. They have even proven further along the line. But Trojan fight, I'm sorry. You're a Trojan USC fan, so I have to give it to you for not watching football. We didn't go to overtime against Ohio State. And so this is a guy who doesn't watch football. He just literally watches probably recaps, the highlights, or just the reactions where they don't give the whole context of the game where you're watching it, kind of thing. So he's like, "Oh my God, that was a bad call," but doesn't watch the other 10 bad calls during the game, kind of thing. So, shout out USC. You're still not bowl eligible. Getting there though. All right, Jackson, what do you got to show?
USC UCLA game. That's a critical game for bowl eligibility here. UCLA will have neither one bowl eligible now.
But
USC has UCLA coming up. Who else do they have? Oh yeah. Oh God, both of those could be losses.
We've got 8 teams in the Big Ten fighting for bowl eligibility still. The only team not is, Purdue. But did anybody see Georgia, Tennessee last night?
Yeah, I watched the whole game. There's about the only game from it. I don't know. I mean, I think Nico is not nearly the quarterback we thought he was early in the year, and I was impressed. I would have thought if they had 17 points, they would be. Was the final 31-17 this game?
Yeah.
Yes.
31-17. Tennessee didn't score a single point in the second half.
And this is why I want to
score 17 points in the second half. or in the first half, I would have said they're almost certainly going to win this game. Georgia's offense came to life in this game. They didn't show me anything all year that said they had that kind of performance in them. Carson Beck finally played like the Heisman contender we thought he was going to be.
Here's my question, though. How are you feeling about Mike Bobo as offensive coordinator for Georgia?
I don't love it. I think that's an odd fit.
I don't know if it's
last night.
Is it him or more the O-line coach? I mean, it still falls on the coaching staff. He's above the O-line coach, but like last year, did fine. Carson Beck looked great. So what happened this year? Is it recruiting? Is it placement, decision making? What is it? There's a lot of things behind the scene. But to the context for the chat, we're going to go into conference title races because the SEC is an absolute mess when it comes to the conference title race. It's you guys are so just 8-2, 8-2, 8-2, 8-2, 8-2. Yeah, 9-1. It's like it's a clusterfuck. There's my 2 F-bombs for the night.
So here's the tiebreaker rules. You got the head-to-head completion, and step 2 is the record versus common conference opponents. Number 3 is the record against the highest best place common conference opponent in the conference standings, proceeding through the conference standings among tied teams. Step 4 is cumulative conference winning percentages of all conference opponents among tied teams. Step 5 is the capped relative total scoring margin versus all conference opponents among the tied teams. And number 6 is the random draw. And
let's get it to the random draw. Come on.
Yeah. So we see Texas is controlling their own destiny.
As is A&M.
Yep, but they got that loss to Georgia, so it could hurt them if they slip up once.
Mm-hmm.
Then there's Texas A&M. They're still in the title race.
Texas also has a really pretty weak conference schedule, so yeah, if you drop down to that criteria, then they're not going to be in good shape.
At this point, though, it's like a lot of these teams, literally, it's do or die. Like, if you don't win out, you're hurting. Some of them due to strength, maybe, but when you've got all these teams tied.
Georgia's completely done with their conference season.
Mm-hmm.
Their last 2 games are non-conference.
So, again, you're a do or die. But, again, so when we look at conference race, we have to this year too. We have to separate that from the playoff because the playoff and the seedings are different than the conference titles and first round bye. We have to. It's kind of something we have to all continue to get our heads around. Like you can be a 4-loss team and be a Power 5 conference or Power 4 conference champion and get a bye.
But looking at this, Georgia's in pretty good shape because they have. Out of those 4 teams that have 2 losses there, they've had the toughest conference schedule. So I would imagine it kind of favors them going forward.
And, of course, Alabama basically needs to win out, and they basically have an advantage if they do. Ole Miss, they definitely need to win out. And they're basically going to be pulling for Auburn or Oklahoma against Alabama.
Yeah, Ole Miss is probably in the toughest spot to try to make it. Yeah.
And we got the common opponents tracker. So Alabama has not played A&M, Texas, or Ole Miss this season. Gotta wish we played Ole Miss. Maybe we can play them in the playoffs.
So Georgia's there at 2-2.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see, Ole Miss. Where's Ole Miss on this schedule? They're at 0-1, and they're not going to get a chance to improve. So Ole Miss probably is in the worst spot. They need basically everyone in front of them to fall. Ole Miss might not really have any chance at all, to be honest.
Yeah. So the winning percentage against conference opponents, Alabama leads the conference with 509.
What was it? Alabama. Let me see.
Yep. Yep.
Okay. So their opponents are 509. Okay, so Alabama. But wait, but they also play two teams that are pretty bad, so that don't have a lot of wins. So that'll bring their opponents' winning percentage down.
But let's not forget there's one thing we can't forget, Sean.
Yeah. What is that?
Auburn is going to bring their best on rivalry week, and they want nothing more than to destroy playoff for the Alabama Crimson Tide.
Oh, absolutely. But, I mean, obviously, if Alabama loses to Auburn, they're toast. They're not even, they don't even have a playoff chance. If that's the case, but no. So Georgia's conference winning percentage is locked in.
Mm-hmm.
A&M has 2 conference games left, right?
Yes, Texas A&M has Auburn next Saturday, and they got Texas.
Okay,
so Texas A&M's path is win out.
Yeah.
Texas has to win out. Georgia just needs to hope for a little bit of luck. Alabama basically needs to win out. That's all they really have to do.
Well, I'm not so sure though, because Alabama's. I mean, like those. Their conference strength of schedule is going to go down with games against Auburn and Oklahoma. So I don't know. They might be pretty close.
I think maybe that win against Georgia from early in the season helps them quite a lot, because we know they can't rely on the win against LSU anymore. They sure as hell really can't rely on that win over Missouri. That's not going to happen, really.
No.
Well, the way I look at it, I think they're going to really bring their A game against Alabama, because again, the Iron Bowl is one of those games where you take the records off, and they're going to want to upset Alabama for sure. I mean, they're not going to bring their A game against Cal, as we saw earlier this year, which we will get to the super chat in a minute. Justin Hardy says, I worry more about Oklahoma than I am Auburn, to be honest, because Oklahoma's on the road. I can understand that. 1989 M says, Bama gonna beat Auburn by 3 scores, y'all. Blowout. Davey says, Alabama wins. They are in the SEC title game. We avoided Mississippi State, and we avoided Ole Miss. I wish we had Ole Miss this year, but again, maybe we can have them in a playoff. So, who knows? Jay Snow says, Merrimack 13, Auburn 10.
Sounds about right. But you never know. I mean, Auburn could lose to Merrimack and beat Alabama. They lost to New Mexico State by like 30 points last year, and then the next week, had 4th and 31.
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, I said on this spot that last season Alabama-Auburn was going to be a close one. Right again, unfortunately.
Mm-hmm.
So here we go. Wilcox from Cal on the hot seat. Don't win if he doesn't win against Stanford or SMU.
I don't know how much they care. I don't think he's on the hot seat.
I think they've actually
outperformed. I think they've actually outperformed expectations, really. So I don't really. I kind of disagree with that one.
Yeah, it's not looking really good. And Michael Smith says Georgia Tech played Georgia to 8 last year. Georgia Tech is better this year. Upset. I mean, it could happen.
Definitely.
I mean, Black Friday looks pretty sloppy this year, which means one thing: upsets are coming.
Yeah. No, it is between the hedges though, so that should give Georgia a little bit of an advantage. Plus, if they lose to Tech, they're probably out of the playoffs unless they can sneak into the SEC title game somehow. So,
Oh yeah,
a whole lot to play for.
Yeah, because we heard it, or for those that watched Alabama Mercer on SEC Network, where the commentators were like, they shouldn't leave out the SEC. They shouldn't leave out anybody that goes to the SEC championship game. You know, that you shouldn't do that. And it was like, yeah, that means nobody's getting left out in the SEC. That's just not going to happen.
No. I mean, that's going to be a very rare situation. You ever have an SEC, either team in the SEC or Big Ten championship game not make the playoffs?
True.
Under the current format, that's just almost never going to happen.
Well, yeah, I was pointing out to the super chat, Ben.
I was going to ask. I was like, did we touch upon it? I want definitely before
we were, and we're on our way to another article from our friend Bill Bender at the Sporting News, where he has the ACC standings.
This is a little more cut and dry.
Yup.
Yeah.
So from what we're seeing, SMU just has to win out. They're good to go. I mean, they got Virginia next week, and they got Cal coming to their backyard.
Mm-hmm.
Clemson, they need a prayer. They need SMU to lose out, or they need Miami to lose another conference game.
Yeah, SMU should win out if they keep playing what they're doing, how they've been playing. They should win out. So Clemson definitely needs help, especially playing. Are they at South Carolina? I know it's a
no, thing, but it's a home game.
Okay, it's still a rivalry game though. South Carolina is pretty good this year.
And I mean, and if Clemson wants any chance in that large bid, they have to beat South Carolina. They probably don't, because they're ranked 20 in the CFP rankings right now. That's a long way to go from 20 to 11 or 12, wherever they need to get to. But
I feel like Clemson, I feel like they are the only non-Big Ten SEC team that could get in that large bid because of their brand. I think that's really going to help them. If Clemson was like SMU or Arizona State, nobody would be talking about them. But because we're talking about Clemson football here, I think all Clemson really has to do is win out and basically run the score up on their opponents. Just be like, see, we got 70-point wins. We got dominating victories. You should let us in as the 11th team.
Yeah, but the problem is Clemson can't do that. They have been unable to do that.
Agreed.
In South Carolina, it's not a team to run the score up on. They have a pretty salty defense.
Mm-hmm.
Clemson. Yeah, so really the interesting thing here comes down to Clemson, Miami. Like, what's the tiebreaker? What is the criteria here, Jackson?
Well, the criteria is common opponents. So the common opponents that Miami and Clemson have had are Virginia Tech, Louisville, Wake Forest, Florida State, and I believe, Did I mention Virginia Tech?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, Virginia Tech. Yeah, because like Clemson and Miami, they beat Virginia Tech. Clemson and Miami, they beat Florida State. Miami against Wake Forest to be determined next Saturday. We don't know the result, but we know Clemson's basically drinking some beer, pulling for Wake Forest. But
Syracuse is the tricky one against Miami.
Yep.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, like Miami's had close games with almost everyone they've played this year, so you don't want to hold anything back. But I think in the Carrier Dome,
the result against Louisville is key. Because what happened to Clemson? They lost for the first time in school history against Louisville football. And Miami won against Louisville. So, I mean,
so really, I mean, Clemson are just huge Wake Forest and Syracuse fans right now.
Yeah.
It's pretty much Miami kind of controls their own destiny here.
Yeah.
Or maybe they absolutely do if that criteria is right.
Unfortunately, all that Miami did this last weekend for themselves is give everyone else the game plan. Just run outside and quarterback draw up the middle. Quarterback power runs, and you can beat Miami. That's all they did this last week.
Basically how I see it is we decide who goes to the ACC title game because we may not be mathematically a part of it, but since we beat Clemson, guess what? We're the reason they won't be able to get in. So
that's right.
That's something to hold your head up on for sure.
Yeah. If you can't win it, spoil
over again.
Yeah, if you can't win it, be spoilers. Like Sean is saying, it's like if you can't win it, at least be the spoiler. It's like we stopped you from even having the opportunity.
Yeah. It's like if you can't be happy, just make as many other people suffer as possible. That's my motto in life. No.
Yeah.
My motto is if I'm happy,
you can't have it either.
Well, that's not a nice motto. Anyway.
Go for it, Jack.
We got the Big 12 as well.
Oh, well, hold on. Before we jump to Big 12, let's address, I don't know if you address this specifically. Wilcox, I don't think he's not going to be on the hot seat.
No. We were on a there. No.
Yeah, Wilcox is not going to be on the hot
winning
seat.
Winning six games at Cal is more than you need.
I will address that the meltdown on Twitter X yesterday from the Calgorithm people were amazing, as they always hype it up every week. And then halfway through the game yesterday, they were all just like, F it, we're out. I'm over this. Done. They were getting blown out. I've
got a protest to go to.
Yeah,
yeah. Sally's having another abortion tonight in the dorm here. Well,
okay, all right. Well, we went way above and beyond on that one.
Anyway.
Thank you, Matt, for that. Jesus. All right. Anyways, yeah, Big 12. The nightmare scenario of Big 12.
So Kansas kind of made things a little bit complicated for a lot of teams, and Arizona State has just been coming out of nowhere. Colorado, we know, has dominated Utah yesterday, and Iowa State is showing, hey, we're still in it. So those tiebreaker rules, head-to-head completion, winning percentage against common opponents. Well, you get the rules.
Yeah.
So here's the thing.
We saw them losing a tight one to Kansas on Big 12 After Dark.
Mm-hmm.
BYU Arizona State is a game to watch for. I'd go as far as say that's going to be a top 10 game for next week.
There's one thing I must say,
What's
that is out of the wackiness of the Big 12, there's only one team that controls their destiny, and that would be Coach Prime and the Buffaloes. They're the only team that control their destiny.
BYU controls their own destiny too.
Yeah. But let's not forget, Kansas is fighting for bowl eligibility. So this is a game where we could see Colorado win this one. We could see Kansas win this one. Anything can happen in Lawrence, Kansas. Well, not Lawrence, Kansas, but
Arrowhead Stadium.
Yep, Arrowhead Stadium. Thank you. So, and Oklahoma State, well, they're just trash this
They're
season.
dung heap. They're dung heap, Jackson, as you like to say.
Yes, they are. And Arizona State, they have to beat BYU next Saturday.
Yeah.
Yes.
Because they are playing themselves into this race. A humongous job by Kenny Dillingham. Old Dilly himself. I mean, that was a smackdown they laid on Kansas State last night. I mean,
that was the shocker of the weekend. That was not to cut you off, Jackson, but that was the shocker of the weekend. Like, out of all the games, that was the shocker. Like, especially against Kansas State at home. Because Kansas State at home is a really tough team to beat. And they just went in there and, like you said, Jackson, smacked them around and gave them the old 5-2. And they knocked them out.
Yep. And Iowa State, now that's a team that's really going to need a lot of help. Because next Saturday, they have to go to Utah. What's Arizona State, Colorado, BYU done? They beat Utah. But what are they going to have to do against Utah? Beat them more than all three of those teams combined. I think point margin is key, gentlemen. Because see here, let's look at Utah. BYU has that 1-point win, right? Colorado, 25-point win. Arizona State, 8-point win. Now imagine if Iowa State wins by 28 against Utah next Saturday. That helps them quite a lot. Ben,
Jackson, what have we gone over the criteria here at all for the Big 12?
Yeah, let me see. Thought we did.
I don't remember. I don't remember going over it, but
win percentage. Yeah, tiebreaker rules, head-to-head competition among the teams, win percentage against common conference opponents. Win percentage. Yeah. Total number of wins.
So right now, does it have where it stands, like where these teams' strength of schedule lies? Their common opponents' winning percentage today.
Oh yeah, we're looking at BYU, Colorado. They just have to win 2 more games. They're good to go. Arizona State.
And of the two teams, I think Colorado is more likely to run the table here.
Mm-hmm.
I think BYU going to ASU is tough. Hosting Houston's one they should win, but
I'm surprised. Kansas, John.
No, I'm not sleeping on
Kansas.
The way Colorado's been rolling lately, I kind of like them in that one. But Houston, I mean, they've shown signs of life lately here, man.
Mm-hmm.
I thought this might have been the worst team in the Power Four early in the season, but they've They made something of themselves.
Well, yeah. Well, Houston got absolutely obliterated by Arizona, yesterday. So
Yeah, but
That was a bad performance.
what's happened to Arizona this season? Jeez.
Jed
Last
Fish
year,
left.
Yeah.
Jed Fish left, and the whole staff.
And their only offense is Noah Fafita, Trenton McMillan. That's it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, the point is, the Big 12 is so wide open. I think we all agree it's looking BYU, Colorado at this point, but ASU still has an opportunity. ASU still has a shot. So
Now,
Big 12 is not done yet, not confirmed.
I want to ask this question. I may sound dumb for asking it, but can Arizona State qualify for the Big 12 title game because of their sanctions, or is that's something completely different?
Arizona State's fine this
Yeah, I think that's
season.
different. I think that's more
They're
practice
not
scholarship
in
stuff.
trouble like they were last year. They just wanted to get through last year.
Yeah.
They're
Okay.
good.
Yeah,
Want to
yeah.
make
I was
sure
like,
I
I don't.
understood that right.
Yeah, I was like, I don't think it has anything to do with the conference or even bowl games. I think it's more of a scholarship and practice.
No, this year, no. They're off the hook now. They're scot free.
I got you. Okay. So they're good to go.
Yeah, no, it's a good question though, because again, when teams have sanctions, it's always like you never know, or penalty, you never know what that can affect. So that's a good question.
There's something we haven't talked about. There's something potential postseason sanctions coming for one team that we haven't talked about in a while.
Who's
I
that?
do wonder. And it's been almost 3 months now since the notice of allegations against Michigan were dropped.
They'll be fine.
So they'll be fine.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Jackson's
They
like, I
got
don't want to get
money.
into
They got
this.
good lawyers. They'll be all right.
It depends on if the NCAA actually wants to grow a pair, grab their balls and tell Michigan to suck it, and actually drop the hammer. That's the difference. If they don't, then they won't. But then again, Michigan's so desperate, we're like, hey, we'll give $10.5 million to a 17-year-old. You're our savior, and not worry about the rest of the team. So that's how dumb Michigan is too. So I'm sorry if you're going to blow $10.5 million NIL on a 17-year-old quarterback who's not proven anything anywhere in college. You're an idiot.
Yeah.
You're an idiot. Let him go to LSU. Let LSU West their NIL. You fire your coaching staff and hire better people.
It is kind of amazing too how they've completely turned face on this. Like last year, we built our team the right way. We attract high quality guys. We are never going to chase stars and invest so much in one player because no one player is bigger than the team. Now, please, Bryce, please come home.
I have to also say it's like it is fun. It is funny. It's a Michigan too. Was like, look at Oregon, Ohio State paying for their roster. Ohio State, we know, has a $20 million roster. Oregon's came out. It's actually only like $10.5 million. So it's not anywhere near what people are suggesting it's at. It's only like $10.5 million. And now Michigan's going to give one player $10.5 million. Shut up. Get out of here, Michigan. Stop it.
Yeah,
anyways, moving on. Who haven't we talked about?
No, we're just going through the Big 12. I think the most likely scenario is BYU and Colorado take care of business, and they'll be playing for it. And they'll be playing, and the loser is probably out. BYU has a chance though, because they could. I mean, they would have definitely had a chance if they didn't blow it against Kansas, but because I think a 12-1 team, I think that's about what you have to do to get in that large bid. You have to go undefeated in these conferences. You have to go undefeated in the regular season and then lose the conference title game. Like that's the way the ACC and the Big 12 are going to get at large bids. It's not. It's going to be hard for them going forward to finish in the top 12 in those leagues without winning them.
I kind of hope Arizona State runs the table and beats BYU this weekend. So it's Colorado, Arizona State, the new Pac-12 teams in the Big 12 championship. That's the ultimate, like, suck it. The Pac-12 lives just in a different conference.
Yeah. You could have more Pac-12 teams on conference championship weekends this year than you had last year.
Well, that's something I was going to bring up maybe later on, or we're going to talk about in the Oregon channel, is the realignment stuff. Because while Oregon was, favored to be in participation of the Big Ten title game this year, no one saw it maybe an undefeated potential season. But no one said Indiana. I mean, Indiana's a Big Ten team, but they were a bottom dweller. They've been a bottom dweller. So no one potentially saw that type of matchup potentially happening.
But I don't think nothing about down this Big 12 conference. Big 12 is from preseason expectations.
Oh God, no!
I mean, Oklahoma State, Utah.
It was Utah. Yeah, it was Utah. It was the favorite of the Pac teams.
Yeah. Oklahoma State, Utah, Arizona were all top 25 teams preseason, I believe, and their combined record in conference, 3-18.
Trash.
One, the two favorites from the media, a combined 1-13 in league play. BYU, who is down near the bottom. BYU was expected to be garbage this year. Arizona State, no one expected anything out of Arizona State this year. No one did. So it's like
I think a lot of. Oh, go ahead, Sean. Go ahead.
Oh yeah, and Colorado getting absolutely ramrodded by Nebraska in week 2 or 3, whatever that was. Now Nebraska is like on life support, and Colorado's on the roll.
That looks like a terrible loss.
Yeah, it does. But at the time we were thinking, oh, same old Colorado, terrible in the trenches, bad defense. They're just a couple of flashy players, and that's the whole team. And that might be the whole team. That's the thing about the thing. If Colorado had to play in the SEC or the Big Ten, they might be losing a lot of games. They might be struggling to get
the ball. Here's the thing.
But the drop off is significant between those leagues and the other two.
I think what's helping Colorado is they're getting turnovers. Like the last couple games, they've had at least 2 turnovers. And they kind of remind me of what USC did a couple years ago when their defense was subpar, but they were getting all those turnovers, what was really helping keep the defense really balanced with the offense. It feels like Colorado's that way. If they get a turnover and set the offense up great and they go up 14-0, the defense can go in cruise control and be fine because they know their offense is going to score every time out.
And that was something I told then, and they realized it, and it happened. I said, you cannot live off of expecting to get 2 or 3 turnovers a game. That's kind of your thing. You can't expect that or live off of that, because if you do and you don't get them, all of a sudden it's like, oh shit, 21-point swing potentially.
Yeah.
Well, that's kind of the problem. It's just crazy to say that this season, now this is NIL maybe potentially, just across the board, there's just so much more parity. And as everyone was concerned about, the 12-team playoff not making the regular season mean anything, but there's just so much more parity. It seems like everyone's just it's almost equalized somewhere in the middle ground a little bit with NIL.
I don't know. Well, I would say like
Well,
until this weekend, Oregon and Ohio State have been kind of steamrolling outside of maybe one game for each of them. But that's pretty typical. We don't. We a lot of times like romanticize teams from the past and think, oh God, that 2021 Georgia team was just leaps and bounds better than everyone. But if you actually look through the season, you'll realize they had a couple of tight games in there. It would right now. I don't know. I think Alabama, dropping off a little bit because that's what happens when you lose an all-time great coach.
So
I think there are still tiers of teams right here. I think too much is being made about how down college football is right now. I still think the top few teams are just remarkably better. I think there's only about 4 or 5 teams that can win the title this year.
Oh, I want to get to Austin here. That's why I want to say the middle tier is kind of cemented in the middle. There's still the upper tier. Yeah. And then there's the middle tier, but everything's kind of balanced out in those tiers in the sense of where there's like not necessarily super superior teams. Every team's kind of catching up, but there's still tiers. And I will agree with you 100%. Sean is like 16-13 last night. Wisconsin's like, guess what? Every team is going to have a struggle fest once in a while. Every team in the season is going to have a struggle fest. Alabama, Auburn last year.
Yeah.
So I mean,
Michigan barely beat Maryland.
It's going to happen. So I mean, I don't want to dispute that, or I'm trying to argue that. Every team's going to have it, no matter who you are. Every team's going to have it.
Yes.
Austin, what were you were trying to get in here? What were you going to go on?
So I was just going to say, Sean talking about, these tiers like y'all are talking about. I think this year, obviously in years past, like we've said, you've had the Georgias of the world, Alabamas, and that was just about it. This year, everyone's kind of like, there's no really elite team this year. There's no team you can look at and say, that team's a definite, they're going to win the Natty. And I get it. Sean's going to say Ohio State. But the thing is, Ohio State's probably looked the best out of everybody. But even they've had their struggles. Oregon, at the beginning of the year, I'll be honest with you, Ben, when y'all almost lost to Idaho, I had a panic attack. And Jackson, God rest his soul, was like, Austin, calm down. Oregon's saving their best stuff for Ohio State. And Idaho is not a bad FCS team. So every team, like you said, has had those nights where it's like, okay, it's just they come in droves and waves.
Yeah, I think that's fair. Again, and especially like specifically with like Oregon struggled at the beginning of the season with some injuries, figuring out the O-line arrangement. Then it took off. Ohio State then dealt with some injuries of the O-line through the Oregon game and after that, and struggled. Alabama's had their struggles this year. Georgia's obviously had their struggle. There is no top, like so to say, team that's like just running away with things. Especially then when you look at schedules.
But I think college football fans like forget how rare that actually is to have a team that's just completely ass kicking pillar to post. Like that doesn't happen very often.
I think a lot. I think there are years where you can tell that this one team is pretty dominant.
Georgia.
And this year, there's not a team that you really feel is excessively dominant. Now, it's kind of one of those years where it seems that parity is a little bit more. Now, that could be because of, like we said, conference realignment, scheduling, bye weeks, the layout of everything. There could be a multitude of elements to maybe why that feels like this. But this year, it does feel a little bit different.
I'll agree with you on that, Ben. It does. It feels like I can't wait for the 12-team playoff because I feel like all 12 teams that are going to get in this year have a great shot. Like, even Boise State, they could upset somebody. Like, think about it. Boise State could give someone a really good game. Like, let's just say it's Boise.
They could get someone. It'll be interesting, too, to see where Boise lands, because I kind of have a feeling Boise won't be number 12. I think they might be a little bit higher come the final rankings. And they could be number 4. Like, that's a real possibility. Like, if Colorado beats BYU, if Colorado wins the Big 12, do they jump Boise? I don't know. I really don't.
And I want to point this out, Ben, because when you all did the Boise State postgame show, and you and Spaz were both like, hey, this Boise State team, they're really good. Let's not take that for granted. Ashton Genty, he's a bad man running that football. When a lot of Oregon fans were like, we shouldn't be playing Boise this close. No. And I remember you were like, this team's going to spoil somebody's season if they get to the playoffs. You said that night. I think that's going to happen.
Well, and again, that win, as close as it was, in desperation mode, Oregon had never beaten Boise State. So I was kind of like, it's kind of one of those things, people say these are different teams. But when you have that record against a team and you've never beaten a team, it still looms over those teams in a way, somehow. It always does. It was a huge victory no matter what. And this Boise State team is a good team. And I think if they got in the playoff, they could at least win at least the first round type of game. I think they definitely
they definitely would have had a better chance if the system was set up a little differently. Because if they get in as that number 12 team, they're going to have to play.
True.
They're going to have to play like a Texas or Ohio State or an Oregon first round.
Could you? I do not want to. I do not want to repeat Boise at home, even at home again. I was just thinking in my head. I'm like, could Boise? If there was enough chaos, could Boise jump up enough to be the host of a playoff? Could you imagine Boise hosting a play? Oh my God, that'd be so good. That'd be so good.
That'd be like.
Let me see a Boise, Indiana, Boise State.
It'd be like seeing a Christmas light for sure.
That would be the most college football thing you would ever see on the blue field. Hosting a playoff.
Yeah,
so good. I would love it. I'd be watching every second of it.
Yeah. Have Alabama go up to the Smurf turf, and
oh my God, that'd be so good.
They're not jumping on.
And think about it. And the thing about it too about Boise is the thing about them is yesterday they went down 14-0. And then, but Ashton Genty, he's putting up these video game numbers that even when you stack the box, he's still getting over 5 yards a tub, so to speak, and he's getting 3 touchdowns. Like, who's going to stop him? Like, I don't care what team you are.
That's going to be a lot different when you step up in competition. Like, I'll tell you this, I'd be shocked if he played Ohio State. If he played Ohio State, he's probably not getting 5 yards a carry. Especially like the rest of their offense.
Against Oregon.
Yeah, I don't think he'd do it again against Oregon. I mean, like, it's a big difference when you're talking about elite. Like, the thing is, Boise can control the trenches against group of 5 teams. I don't think they can really control the trenches, not consistently.
Well. I thought that too. I watched his tape against the first week against Georgia Southern. Georgia Southern, right? Or was it Georgia State? No, Georgia Southern, I believe. And I was like, dude, he's bouncing off tacklers. Most of the game, Oregon controlled him. But guess what? He bounced off a few tackles and got like 20, 30-yard rushes here and there. And I'm like, Jesus, there it is. This guy just bounces off of people. It's insane. the amount that he bounced, and he's averaging 7.4 yards a carry, 26
And that's
touchdowns,
and I mean, like,
1,893 yards. I mean, the guy's a beast, no matter what you want to say. The guy is a monster.
oh, of course. Yeah. I mean, like, to average 7.5 yards a carry when you're basically getting 30 carries a game as well. Like, that's ridiculous.
Yeah, I'm sure he's averaging 30 a game at least. I'm sure.
Yeah.
I mean,
And
he is their offense. And even last night, San Jose State, he was only averaging like 2.8 yards or so a carry through 3 quarters, and then he just beat them into submission and made that box score look real pretty. But like he just has that ability. Like it is, especially at the group of 5 level, tackling him for 4 straight quarters is nobody's idea of a good time.
And that's the thing. I think it's the teams like maybe and Oregon, I think, took Boise State seriously. There were just some issues, never beating them before, too. Of course, one of them. But they're like, Ohio State. Guess what? Just ask Oklahoma. Remember, Boise State will show up to those games and be like, all right, you think you can beat us? We'll show you. That's kind of the mentality that Boise State just has for some reason.
And the thing about it, too, is this has got the feel of March Madness in some way. Like, everyone thinks, oh, Boise, you're Cinderella. You won your conference. You got a spot. Good job. All it takes is one wonky play, and Boise can upset somebody. As much as Sean is bragging about Ohio State in the trenches, all it takes is Will Howard to throw a big 6, and all of a sudden you look up.
You can say
all of a sudden it's 10-0.
You could say this about Texas, about Georgia and stuff. I'm saying it like just lining up and running the football right at a team when that team has massive physical advantages against you. It's a different thing.
But here's the thing. Here's the thing, though, Sean. All it takes is one wonky play. Because what if Will Howard throws a pick 6 or they get a field goal block return and flips the game on their head, and then Boise's got momentum, and then Genty goes wild? You never know.
Yeah, I don't want to dispute that.
I'm not saying it can't happen. I mean, the way Boise plays football, I don't like their chances of beating any of the really, really big dogs. I think the Oregon game was a bit of a fluke. I don't think that happens again. And yeah, against the other more physical teams, I think they're going to have problems. They're a little too one-dimensional.
Well, so thinking of the Mountain West, if we haven't said it, what are your let's do this real quick. We're over 2 hours. What are our expectations for the Mountain West? Because Boise State 9-1, their only loss is 3 points on the road at Oregon. Mm-hmm. As far as I'm concerned, Boise State pretty much locks it up, but there's a few interesting teams out there. Obviously, Washington State, Oregon State, they don't belong. They're not in the Mountain West title race anyways. Even if they were undefeated, they were not qualified for the Mountain West title, so it doesn't matter. So what do we got for the runners up?
We got
Colorado State.
We've got the real Norvells here. not the fake
UNLV still alive.
It really
is. UNLV still alive?
Yeah, it really is only Colorado State and UNLV that are alive for the title race. That's it. Colorado State's 5-0 in the conference. UNLV is 4-1. Everyone else is 3-3 or worse.
How do they only have 5 conference games at this point in the season? They only play. Oh man, that's
because they have a lot of these teams have Oregon State and Washington State on their schedule, and they don't count as conference games technically.
Okay, but yeah, yeah, that's interesting. The Mountain West, it looks like they only play 7 games in conference.
Yeah,
that's interesting.
So like for instance, we're looking at Boise State. For instance, Boise State had Georgia Southern, Oregon, Portland State, Washington State, Oregon State. 5 technical non-conference. Even though Oregon State and Washington State are conference, I think they're considered non-con because Washington State and Oregon State don't qualify for the Mountain West title. So I think they're technically considered non-con, even though
I'm just saying that's interesting. Yeah, that's so weird. That has to be the reason, because otherwise Oregon State and Washington State wouldn't have been able to put a schedule together. But yeah, a 7-game conference schedule, huh?
Yeah, because otherwise Washington State would be right in the mix of it. To be honest, even after losing this Saturday, they'd be right in the mix.
So legitimately, yeah, you've got a few teams at 3-3, but only 3 teams have 1 or fewer losses. So the only teams in contention are Boise, CSU, and UNLV. And looking at Colorado State's schedule here,
let's see, we got
they're at Fresno. They're at Fresno this weekend, and then they host Utah State. So they control their own destiny.
At Fresno could be a little difficult. Utah State, not so much, but yeah, they definitely control their own destiny there. Fresno State, there might be a trip-up game, maybe.
So let me ask.
UNLV has to go at San Jose State, and then at home versus Mighty Wolfpack. Let's go, Nevada.
Nice.
Let's go. Shock the world. Even though you're Nevada's 0-5 in conference play.
But how about this? Nevada had like a 2-touchdown lead against SMU in week 0 this year.
They are awful. I know, but they are awful. They are terrible.
Wouldn't that have been crazy? Nevada beat SMU, and then Nevada just goes winless in the Mountain West, while SMU just wins the ACC. Wouldn't that have been the most hilarious result ever?
That would be one of those outlier games, where it's that first season. But yeah, it would be funny. But yeah. It's like it would be funny, but still.
So that would just end week 0 forever. No one would ever want to play a week 0 game. Like, wait. Look at this.
So, I want to throw this out here. It's like food for thought. So we're all assuming Boise's going to get the group of 5 spot. But what if Boise loses? Then who we think would get it? Just to throw that out there.
It would just be the winner of the American, probably.
Yeah,
Tulane or Army.
The American would be Tulane or Army.
That's what I said. That's exactly what I said.
I thought you said Troy. I was like,
Troy's in the Sun Belt.
Yeah, I was like, Troy. I was like, what the hell are you talking about? We got the arguments going on. Tulane, Army.
Does Army play Notre Dame this weekend? Because that potentially could. Okay, so that is the one way Boise could win out and not get that playoff spot is if Army were to beat Notre Dame.
Jackson, this is where you come in, Jackson. You've been preaching this to me.
Mm-hmm.
Take it away. This is your moment. Go for it.
Army
beats Notre Dame.
Yeah. If Army beats Notre Dame, Army's basically it's basically between Army and Boise State for that group of 5 spot if Army wins out. And Notre Dame, they lose that game, they're basically out of playoff contention, really.
Yeah. I can see that. I don't know. We got hijacked there, but anyways, carry on. Keep going.
Good God.
So basically, Notre Dame. So basically, since Notre Dame's not in a conference, they lose either to SC or Army, they're done. There's no chance they get back. Or do you think the committee would try to sneak them in, especially if Indiana goes awry?
No, they're not getting in if they lose. They're done.
Oh, sorry.
I
No bias here. No bias.
Oh, go ahead.
You're good, Austin. Keep going.
I was just going to say, the reason why I bring that up is because I've heard this from a lot of people, but if Indiana gets blown out and Notre Dame loses, I've heard the scenario where a 2-loss Notre Dame would get in over a 1-loss Indiana because Indiana would have gotten blown out. And I've heard people calling the market saying Indiana's the only team that stands in a lot of teams' way right now. Indiana gets blown out, they're done. They should go away. But if it's close, then we got arguments.
I think Indiana's probably going to get in no matter what. I think that's going to be hard for them.
Yeah,
fall.
I think that's the point there is a great point of like people looking at the schedule. But again, when you look at the schedule, people are pre-ranking these teams based off nothing. And then you're looking at the hype, what is happening. You're seeing these teams lose the team. No one had Vanderbilt ranked. Guess what? Vanderbilt should have been ranked then, technically.
Yeah, but the thing is, Indiana hasn't beaten anybody that's had a good season this year.
I understand that, but Vanderbilt should have been ranked at the beginning of the season if people did their jobs right or expectations, but they didn't. Vanderbilt beat Alabama. Vanderbilt's taken on multiple teams. They beat teams. The point is Vanderbilt's a good team.
They lost by 3
where was Vanderbilt ranked preseason this year?
Nowhere.
90th? 80th? I mean, that Jackson's doing work in the background right now. I can see he's like, hold on, I got this. But I'm saying, so expectations. So Indiana is exceeding expectations, but also in those expectations of who they've been playing outside of Michigan, they have been murdering everyone.
Mm-hmm.
By like 3 to 4 scores.
They've looked like a legit top 10 team. There's no question about it.
They've been, and I think the game against Michigan, people say, well, they finally played a defense that's decent. I think it's a lot like Oregon going into this Wisconsin game last night. I think it was a lot of them wanting to get to the bye week and rest. They're tired. It's been a long season, kind of like Oregon, 8 straight games with 3 road games. They're like, hey, we need a break at this point.
And really, if you watch that game, it was really just one bad half. I mean, Indiana's offense moved the ball up and down the field on Michigan in the first half.
Yeah. So until Indiana flips, they're undefeated. They are winning and they are amazing, and that is why. Shout out! We didn't say at the beginning. Kirk Cignetti, 8-year contract extension. Nice. Good luck, Michigan. If you want to get her a show more. Good luck. You're stuck now, bitch. Everyone's like, go get Cignetti. Like, good luck now. $8 million a year, I think it was.
Yeah.
Good for Cignetti. Good for Cignetti.
Well, and plus,
Michigan's coach wasn't even on a contract until it got out in the media that he was on MOU.
Well, plus Cignetti looks like the kind of guy that wants to build something instead of just leaving for a brand.
Yeah. We said this before. I don't. Curtis Cignetti he's 61, 62.
Yeah, something like that.
He doesn't seem like a guy who's gonna like in 3 years jump ship to another team. Like he's gonna stay there and.
He might in 3 years, but it wasn't going to be after 1.
Yeah, I think it'll be chill there. If he's winning and they're paying him and they love him, stay there, retire, make that money.
Well,
Why not? You know.
well, for example, like Dan Lanning, his name's getting brought up all over the place here recently. You know, when Alabama's job open, everyone's like, Dan Lanning, you're the man. Come on over. You're Nick Saban's replacement. And now in the NFL circle, Dan Lanning's name is being thrown around. And I keep thinking to myself, he's not leaving Oregon. Get over it, people. I'm sorry, Jackson. Go ahead. Go ahead.
I was going to say, I remember when I went on the Big Ten show with Justin Adams and Sonny Verma earlier this year. Like, it was like a day or so after Saban retired, and we talked a little bit about who should Alabama go after. I said they should go after Kalen DeBoer or Dan Lanning, one of those two, not Lane Kiffin or Steve Sarkisian. And, you know, because like the fact that Oregon was going to the Big Ten, I think that helps them be able to keep Dan Lanning. Because like if Oregon was still in like the Pac, Dan Lanning would be leaving, no questions asked. But because Oregon is in the Big Ten, yeah, because I mean, like Willie Taggart left, Mario Cristobal left.
Well, in defense of that, Jackson won. Willie Taggart openly said Florida State was his dream job.
True.
Openly, he said that, and Mario Cristobal is a Miami alum.
Mm-hmm.
So those at the same time to us weren't shocking. And at the same time, as fans, we were like, "Bye, Taggart." Half your no half-ass second half adjustment bullshit, and Mario Cristobal, your time management game shit. Get out of here. All right, we've had enough after 4 years. So with Dan Lanning, I do think that, and I agree. I mean, we were like, as soon as those rumors came out, we did it. I was not part of the Twitter space world where Oregon fans were melting down over the hiring of Dan Lanning. I was like this. Hey, I'm going to trust the administration. They've actually done a good job over the years of hiring coaches. So I have no issue with it. And then when the Alabama game came off, again, I remember I had to save Spaz through the webcam. I had to grab him from jumping off a rooftop. I had to save Spaz from literally killing himself. Over it, but I do think Alabama was trying to get Lanning. Now, would he have left if we had stayed in the Pac? That's a good question. Now, that's something we'll never know, because I think the money still would have been there to pay him to stay. Because his wife made him promise to stay at this job while their kids grew up, because she was tired of moving around with their kids. And he's always been stuck to his word. So I think that no matter what, they would have paid him and he would have stayed. But we'll never know that situation. I think the Big Ten did help influence, of course, that and the boosters to go, okay, we'll get more money because we're going to get more money back. So, of course, there's a huge scenario.
Well, and I remember the Sports Center interview where he did say where it was like where Coach Lane said that his wife is the boss or she's the coach of the house.
I think she bosses him around a little bit at home when he's there.
He seemed pretty happy about it.
The good thing about being a college football coach is you're probably not at home all that often.
That's the point.
Oh, sorry, recruit.
She's like,
I've got some recruits to visit.
Yeah, she's like, while you're here, do the dishes, Slops them around a little bit for fun. Do we have any other things severely to talk about? Austin, what do you got? What you got? No, okay. Austin, I have to address them. I have to address this. Adam, when Cristobal left, we literally went, thank you. And literally, and you can look on Twitter and you can see the meltdowns that people had. The majority of actual Oregon fans went like this, thank God. Thank God. Like, we were so done at that point that we're like, cool, leave. I appreciate Cristobal for what he did, but I had absolutely no problem with him leaving. Because if Oregon wanted to keep him, they would have matched the offer that Miami gave. Oregon didn't even bother to do that because they were like, yeah, you know what? Maybe it's time to go clean, so to say. And Cristobal is going to his alumni. So no problems. Understood. We got it. So I like how Miami fans are just like, ooh, Oregon so upset about this still. No, we're not. We give a fuck. We ended up with the better end of the deal, anyways.
Miami fans still jealous. They're stuck in a poverty league for the next 6 years.
Yeah, I had to address that real quickly. Anyways, carry on. We got Austin. You were talking.
So I don't know if we address this or not, but I think we should. But Nebraska USC, did we talk about that? Did I miss that conversation?
We
talked
did a
about
little
the
bit. We can talk about it. We can talk about it a little bit more really quickly.
So what I wanted to bring up is, was that a good USC win or was that a bad Nebraska game? Like, which was that? Who deserves more credit for that?
It makes me think Nebraska's going to collapse all over again.
I was watching that game and I thought, like, this is a game both teams normally lose. The problem is one of them can't lose this game. So, I mean, I would say Nebraska, that was more true to form, you know?
Yeah, I can see that. I literally, I sent out some messages during it. I was like, I am so freaking tired of watching USC get so freaking lucky on dumb passes. They get caught in outrageous ways or tipped and they get caught in they get lucky in so many ways, sometimes offensively. There were two balls I can remember specifically. It should have probably been picked and they got tipped and the receiver caught it. And I'm like, come on. You can't live like that. They were just ridiculous.
Yeah.
So Nebraska really kind of screwed themselves. And then we talked about the Hail Mary at the end of the game where the ref should have called PI on the defense for USC for holding the guy, and they didn't even do anything. And I mean, the guy was literally grabbing him, holding him. Like that should have been called as PI. But.
I mean, it still would have been pretty unlikely that Nebraska scores a touchdown.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was just bad officiating. And Nebraska's offense, good grief. It's like watching Charlie Brown at the pitcher mound, as Jackson says. Literally, they were just dumping off, like just taking little bits at a time as time's running with 2 timeouts. And I'm sitting there thinking, urgency, come on, take 10, 15-yard chunks here. Come on. It's not like you're playing the 85 Bears, Nebraska. Come on. Surely you got a 15-yard play in there somewhere.
Now, I want to say this, like this USC plays UCLA this week, and it looks like a do or die game for both of them as far as playoff eligibility or bowl eligibility goes. UCLA finishes the season against Fresno. I mean, that's a game that they like right now I would say they're probably going to win. That's not a given or anything, but USC finishes the season against Notre Dame. That seems like a likely loss. So right now UCLA at 4-6, USC at 5-5. Kind of feels like it's winner goes, loser doesn't kind of a game. UCLA coming out of nowhere. I mean, they look dead like 4 or 5 weeks ago, and now.
Ooh.
Sean Foster, coach of the year? What?
No.
No, that's probably either going to be Signetti or Deion Sanders,
No,
or maybe
it was a
Dan
joke.
Lanning.
It was a joke.
I'm
It was a
thinking
joke.
Kenny Dillingham could be a coach of the year
No,
candidate.
guys, that was a throwaway comment. We're not. We've had this discussion like 3 times tonight about coach
I
of the
know.
year.
I was like, yeah. I was like, Dillingham has to be in the discussion, but
I took
it
we
serious.
don't know who it's going to be.
But
I took
any
it
other
serious. My bad,
topics?
Sean.
Did we leave out any other topics tonight?
We do not, unless you guys have something interesting to talk about.
We
I
didn't
think
talk
we
about
covered everything, didn't we?
I mean, it looks like Sean needs to go finish his perm that he was trying to do. And he stopped halfway.
Well, we do have to maybe briefly talk about the Ohio State Indiana game coming up this week. This is interesting.
This is an interesting game, and thank God I'm on a bye week, so I actually get to focus and watch this game because this is gonna be interesting. Because again, Indiana did not look great against Michigan, but were they just waiting to get to the bye week? Like, thank God we get a break before Ohio State.
Now,
kind of like.
I'm thankful we have this game at this point in the season when we know that Indiana's actually good. This would have been I could have seen us playing them in week 4, seriously, and get our asses kicked. I could very easily have seen that happen.
now,
But you know what? We know Indiana's for real, and they're coming to play. And Ohio State, significant favorite, 12.5 points right now on FanDuel. So
yeah,
Austin, what's your point? Go ahead, man. Let's go.
I was gonna say real fast. I don't know if I ain't never heard this much complaining, but Ohio State fans, a lot of them are complaining, saying, "Why are we playing Indiana before rivalry week? This is bad scheduling." And I'm thinking it to my head. I'm like, you don't know. Most of the time, Indiana would not be this good. The one time they are really good, it just happened to be by luck.
Yeah, that's sort of why the Big Ten scheduled done like this. Yeah, Michigan plays Northwestern this week. Ohio State plays Indiana. It's just like they're probably going to do that all the time. Like give them the perceived weaker teams in the league right before they play each other.
Yeah.
So that's generally kind of how the Big Ten has always scheduled these games. And sometimes it's nearly
That's my thing.
Well,
that's my thing too. And I think I was just gonna say, I was thinking a lot of people, are complaining because it's before rivalry week. We can't have that. And it's like, here's the thing. You know what you're getting. You're not going to overlook them like you may have in years past. Indiana, College game day is going to be there for that game. First time in history they've been there for an Indiana-Ohio State game, I think. No, they went. Did they go? What year was it, Jackson? They went
to
Ohio State,
College
Indiana.
game day for Ohio State, Indiana in 2017.
That was a Thursday night. That was a Thursday night game.
Mm-hmm.
So it's the first time a proper
kickoff is there, but I'm more concerned about the margin of victory or marginal loss for Indiana, because if Indiana loses this game, this game basically either has to go to overtime or it needs to be a 1-possession game. And Indiana's basically an at-large team, or they outright win.
I'd say as long as they don't lose by an absurd amount, by like 35 or something like that, they'll be solidly in. They're going to be ranked in the top 5. They're going to be ranked 5th going into this game. It's a long way to fall at this point in the season. A long way to fall from 5 to 13. That's not. I don't think that happens.
And
By losing on the road to Ohio State.
And this is basically a playing game. Winner plays Oregon. Unless Oregon loses to Washington, and then you'd have Penn State and Oregon. But I still think Oregon would win that tiebreaker, correct?
I'm sorry, what was the question here?
So Ohio State, Indiana is basically a playing game. The winner of that game has basically got a spot in Indy booked up.
Yeah.
But if Oregon loses to Washington, would Oregon and Penn State be tied? Or is Oregon already booked a spot?
I'm not exactly sure what would happen in that scenario. But
Oregon has that head-to-head win over Ohio State. So if like Ohio State wins against Indiana, I mean, I think Oregon's fine.
Yeah, I don't know exactly.
But
sure.
we can all agree that Oregon, Penn State, Indiana, and Ohio State are playoff teams.
Yep.
I can agree on three of those. Yeah. The only one I'm on the fence with is Indiana.
Well, I think Indiana just either has to win or lose a close game to Ohio State. And, of course, beat Purdue, which I don't think should be a problem. The only problem is what network are we going to be, or what streaming site are we going to see Indiana-Purdue on?
No,
put that on Peacock at like noon.
That feels like a Big Ten network game for sure.
I feel like that could be a game on Nickelodeon, but kidding. But in all seriousness, I'm thinking it could be like a Peacock game. Yep, Nickelodeon. Yeah,
can we get like an animated reenact or like a claymation reenactment of the game?
That would be pretty cool.
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah, like don't show it in real time. Have it like 30 seconds behind, and have it, quick.
Yeah. Indiana.
I noticed
that'll be fun.
I noticed this week with the Big Ten scheduling, they got Illinois Rutgers at noon on Peacock, and then of course they got the night game with Notre Dame, and then they got 10:30 on NBC, UCLA, USC. Like, what kind of scheduling are we in?
Good grief. Yeah. And okay, so I guess we covered Ohio State, Indiana, because I mean, Ohio State, all they have to do is win out. They're basically in the Big Ten title game.
Yeah.
Let's talk about your team, Jackson. Bama, Oklahoma. Do the Sooners have a shot?
It could happen. I'm not.
It's in Oklahoma.
Yeah. But I'll definitely talk more about it on tomorrow's edition of Crimson Tide Live.
Oh, get out of here, Jackson.
I gotta leave you wanting more, man. Like that's part of my that's always the key. Leave them wanting more.
I am a little curious. If Oklahoma finishes 5-7, do they fire Brent Venables after this year? I think yes.
Ooh, that's a good question right there.
I think he's gone if they don't make a bowl. And kind of rough because they had the toughest schedule. They had the toughest schedule in the country this year. So,
Jackson, I'm going to steal one of your stats.
Okay.
Oklahoma has made 25 straight bowl games. If they don't make it this year, that ends. It would be the second longest one in history to end.
And it'd be the first time since 1998 that they have not been in a bowl game.
So it would be the second longest bowl streak in history?
Yeah.
Oklahoma. You know who number one is?
Yeah. I think it's Alabama. I think
No,
that's what I saw.
No.
Alabama. No way.
Do you know who it is, Jackson?
I believe you're talking about Virginia Tech.
Really?
Is Virginia Tech the longest active
Is it?
streak in history for
Has to be.
consecutive bowl
Longest
games appearances?
Has to be.
Ohio
Oh,
State's.
no.
Ohio State's.
That ended.
When did Ohio State? I think the '99 season was the last time they didn't make a bowl game.
Let's see.
Georgia.
Georgia is at 27 games. Oklahoma 25.
Yep.
Wisconsin 22. Alabama 20. Clemson 19. Oklahoma State 18.
Yeah, the last time Georgia.
Well, that Oklahoma State streak is coming to an end.
Yeah, the last time Georgia.
That's right. Ohio State was ineligible for a bowl game in 2012, so that's why they're not on
the
the
last time Georgia missed a bowl game was in 1996. That was the year where they were in 4 overtimes against Auburn and won. That 1996, as a matter of fact, was the first year that the overtime system was used in college football.
It was also the year that Bill Clinton beat Bob Dole in the presidential election, and the Olympic Games were in the United States. This is the last time.
Hey Arnold premiered on Nickelodeon that year as well.
Oh my God! We go with Hey Arnold.
Yeah, Ben, your team's on a bye week.
Yeah, I am.
You have no game this week.
I get to relax.
So
I'm chilling in
we
a
got
Nevada.
hit this
I'm
week
chilling
at
in a
4 o'clock.
I'm chilling in a Wolfpack shirt for fuck's sake. There's
Yeah.
three F-bombs tonight.
Oh yeah. Yeah, 1996, a lot of things happened that year. And Georgia missing a bowl game was one of them. Jim Donnan, he was not too well liked.
All right. Do we have any other major topic to talk about tonight?
That's about it.
Nope. I'm good.
I'm all good. I'm just kind of like.
What about the Bucknut?
We already talked about Ohio State, Indiana, or
No. I mean that was my sub for an F word. The Bucknut. What about you?
No. Just hoping Merrimack can smash Fordham, break them a new one.
Oh, here we go.
Hopefully.
Yeah, and hopefully we don't lose to Pitt.
And I hope Indiana Ohio State is a good game, regardless of the winner. I just hope it's a good game.
Oh man. Ben, what have you got going on your adventures this week?
Work. Nothing. Yeah.
You know what?
Good wrap up there though. Just check me out here on YouTube. You'll find me tomorrow night on the Big Ten Rivalry Show.
Oh,
then
nice.
on a live stream on my channel, Exploring Ben and Sam. And then Wednesday night or this week, some point, should be Wednesday night, but we have to see about our potential guest host. I'm not going to say who it is that maybe is coming on. We'll fluctuate on the Oregon channel for a guest host to talk the bye week and the rivalry with Washington. And we will just take it from there.
Oh, I think Rich Brooks is dead actually, but
yeah, Twitter, X, whatever. I don't know. All right. Anyway, Jackson, what's going on for you this week?
Well, I will say though, I've got Crimson Tide Live, of course, on Monday afternoon, and it's a star-studded lineup with John Hoover at Sooners at Sports Illustrated, Sooners Fan Nation. I've also got Parker Thune at OU Insider from Rivals, Preston Gant from the PG Show, and Eric Cooper from Unfair Sports Joining Johnny Burtz and myself to discuss the preview and prediction of the Alabama-Oklahoma matchup. And I'll tell you right now, it'll be a wild ride. But first, we'll be starting off our show with the recap of Alabama-Mercer, which, I mean, there's not really a whole lot to recap, but we'll still recap it all the same. And we will be going over the SEC title race for a little bit. And I can tell you right now, it's going to be a fun show. And Alabama with the Voice of College Football is 53 subs away from that magic number, 2,500. Let's get 2,500, and let's beat Texas at the Voice of College Football to 3,000 subs. And, of course, you can find me on Jackson Johnson 979 on my personal YouTube and on Jackson VOCFB and at X.
Bears, oh boy.
And on Instagram at Jackson Johnson 543908. I'm 113 subs away from 500 on my personal channel, and I hope to get there before the end of the year. Let's go.
We do all remember when Mercer beat Duke in March Madness, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's right.
Yes.
Yep.
Austin, where can people find you? As I know Jackson's already posted it, but where can people find you?
You can find me on Sports Talk with Austin 2002 here on YouTube, where I do my Wednesday and Saturday shows, of course, with Jackson. And you can find me on Twitter as well, as posted down there if you want to give me a follow. You know, talk all things college football. I talk college basketball. I talk all sports. And, you know, as another side promotion, thanks to Mark Rogers' link, I was able to buy a new dog bed this week for my puppy dog. So, and it was a great shopping experience, and I highly recommend it. So thank you, Mark. I will do it again. It means making sure you get a piece of the action. Sean, where can people find you, you crazy Buckeye?
No, you can't find me anywhere. I make myself.
Except for right there. Everyone stalk him. Send him messages. The craziest messages you can think of. Send it to him.
There you go.
No, please. Yeah, you can join all the spam gambling and porn bots by my followers.
Sean, you dirty dog.
Ooh. We know what Sean's looking at on Twitter.
Yeah,
but yeah. Anywho, let's say my DM box is full. I don't know.
Yeah. Yes, Notre Dame Army is at Yankee Stadium this season.
And in all fairness to Sean, I get a lot of follows, and I'm like, who? And I look at him like, that's a porn bot.
Yeah.
It's just some random follow. It's just some random follow. It like doesn't mean anything. They don't contribute or say anything or message you at all. It's just like,
yeah.
What?
I did start a Blue Sky page today, so maybe I'll have more information on where to share that next week. Jackson, are you on Blue Sky yet?
Yeah, I'm in the stages of setting it up.
All right. Yeah. Yeah, I have a feeling there will be far fewer porn bots. There are far fewer porn bots on Blue Sky. That's my guess.
Yeah. Anywho.
Oh, goodness.
Exactly.
Anywho.
Exactly. Wow. I think I have to give a quick shout out once again. Mercifully on a bye, Nevada. Pick your shit up and get better next week. Merrimack, get your shit together too. Can't accept these losses.
You represent us as a brand, Nevada and Merrimack. You're making us look bad.
Yeah. It's terrible. Terrible.
I expect both of them to be in the playoffs next year.
Yep.
Yes, especially Nevada.
Yeah, Nevada.
Because Ben might be the offensive coordinator.
I literally feel I could do a better job sometimes at some of these schools where I'm like, why don't you always have an underneath crossing route? Just 3rd and 5. Why do you not just have a guy underneath? And no one does. I just don't. I don't understand. It's simple philosophy.
The simplest pitch and catch.
So,
Yeah.
but
4
that's a
verts.
different-
You got to go 4 verts, 6 protection, force man-to-man matchups. Come on, man.
That's a different. Depending on your conference, maybe, but that's a different subject matter. We'll see what happens next year.
Ben,
There's a lot of coaching firings coming up at colleges and high schools.
That's been one quick question here. After spending, I don't know how long you were in Reno, is that a place you'd want to live?
Reno, Reno it's fine. I like that there's seasonal. I like the view around it. Now, living there, a lot of it's just manufacturing and hospitality. Warehousing, manufacturing, and hospitality. That's really kind of what Reno is. So goddamn things are expensive there. Do you know how much a large pizza is on average at a place?
Good grief.
What, like 19 bucks? 20
No,
bucks?
I mean, and I'm saying for pickup, like, so not delivery, just pickup. The average
Okay.
price of a large pizza.
15 bucks.
Yep. And
No,
you can also
No, $29.
20.
Yeah. I didn't even buy a pizza there because I was like, "Are you kidding for pickup? What?"
Well, it's not that expensive in Vegas.
Oh, I know. I don't get what the deal is in Reno. I was like, I saw the prices from a place literally across from the hotel, like a casino mall area, and multiple pizza places around it. And I was like, the average was about $29 for a large for pickup. I'm like, huh, nope.
good grief.
There
Amos
was
is
a
charging arm and leg.
Yep.
there's a really terrible
And
local
drop me
band
on
around
those
here who
things.
had a semi-hit with. There's a really terrible local band here called Wayland that had a mild hit with a song called Reno. They said that according to the song, there's only one road in and one road out of Reno.
No, that's not true. But
I'll say
no.
that.
Yeah, I didn't think it was. Yeah.
Okay, Tony.
I'll
Did you
say
pay
this.
$44 for delivery to and tip? That's the thing. This was $32. Like, you go in and pick it up, and that was just the pizza with nothing else. Just the pizza.
Where do these people live? They say there's fucking $30. $30 ain't that expensive. What the hell?
Yeah, no, I will go buy a $5 frozen pizza at the supermarket and be extremely happy, compared to
Ben,
30.
I've got something that'll cheer you up, though.
What?
I got something to cheer you up. Something that is always affordable and cheap and easy to eat. The Pop-Tarts. The Pop-Tarts will always be there for you after they get done spanking the refs.
How dare you, Austin? We are not at that point yet, because I got to call out Truckee, California. How dare you, California, also? It's like 30 miles from Reno, Nevada.
I apologize.
How dare you? There were a couple of restaurants that were decent priced. We went to the first one. You know how much the average entree was at this little tavern, bar, and grill?
In Truckee, California, or in Reno?
It was in California. Truckee, California. It's like 40 miles from Reno.
Wait, an average entree? So we're talking
average entree. Tavern, bar, and grill. Like, this is an old western town.
So where are we talking about? Like a steak burger or like steak and eggs, or what are we?
A little bit more of that menu style, but I mean, this is like some old little town. It's like literally like probably like 3,000 people, 10 miles into California.
Okay, the average entree price. Normally, without you leading me like this, I would guess those would cost like $20, the average.
$55.
Yeah.
55 freaking dollars. And
Shit.
gas there
No,
was
I mean,
50, gas there was
okay.
$5.60 per gallon for regular unleaded 5.60. And
Yeah.
I'm like, this is not even hardcore Cali prices. Not even
No,
hardcore.
well, I mean, it's all more expensive out west than gas, especially because California has to have their own gas, and they have to put like $1.20 of taxes on top of all of it.
I'm surprised Reno was expensive as it was. It was $4.25, and I was like,
yeah,
wow.
no, it's all more expensive out west because they don't have the refining capacity, and it's a lot harder to transport.
Yeah, but it's also taxes.
Stuff out there.
Even cigarettes
Anywhere
were like,
you
some cigarettes were like for a pack of Camel were like $11, and I was like, holy shit! And they're like, yeah, they keep raising it every 3 months.
Everything's more expensive. Everything's more expensive out west because it's more expensive to ship stuff out there.
Well, it's not just that; it's just taxes
No,
too.
It's not.
You know?
No, yeah,
it's a combination. It's a combination. It's a combination of things. Yeah.
Well, that's more the California thing. The taxes that make it go that high. That's
definitely.
not as big. That's not as big of a thing in like Idaho and Nevada. But stuff is still more expensive in those states. All
right. Well, and now we got into the political realm. Let's shut this mother effer down. Huh? I watched my mouth. How dare you, Austin? Too. You've had a shot at this before. You already tried to overrule it. Jackson does it all the time. Sean, can you play us out?
Pop-Tart, play us out.
God damn it. Yes. Oh, yeah.
The most
Lord.
God. Every week.
Oh, it's my favorite time of the week.
Ben, put that thing back in your pants. No one